That's crazy. That's pretty cool, dude. Wow. He's never home, bro. Oh man. Oh man.
Take your time and let me love you good.
Hello and welcome. I'm going to begin with an uncharacteristic, bold statement. Strikeforce Morituri is one of the best comics you've probably never read, or heard about for that matter. It's a Marvel Comics series from the 80s, created by the writer Peter B. Gillis, with artwork by Brent Anderson. This creative team stayed on the title for the first 20 issues. It was then handed off to the writer, James Hudnall, and the artist, Mark Bagley. They would remain on the series until it ended with the 31st issue. This team would address all the unresolved plot beats with a 5-issue limited series, Electric Undertow. While Hudnall's run has its merits, it's the Gillis and Anderson run that is a stellar, overlooked piece of work.
You
So let's get
message your
into what the
mom.
series
That's
is
why I should
about,
message
and
her.
what
She
makes it a
shouldn't be
timeless,
late.
worthwhile read.
Yeah. Go turn on the light, babe girl. Are you doing
In the
matching game?
not-too-distant future, the
Oh.
United Nations is dissolved, and one democratic world government takes its place. Not long after,
Matching
a race
game.
of aliens known as the Horde invade Earth and begin to plunder its resources. This goes on for 4 years, before Earth has a proper, effective response. That response is to create superheroes using the Morituri process. This process is limited to individuals who fit a rare genetic profile, and the results are entirely unpredictable. Some could get an entirely useless power, like making plants bloom, or something more useful, like super speed. So the process comes with no guarantees. There is one final terrible side effect. Whomever goes through the process will die within a 1-year period. Like the powers themselves, when that time is up is unpredictable. It might not happen for an entire year, or it could happen in a few months, or a few weeks. But it will happen, usually sooner than expected. The process is irreversible. Going through it is an assured death sentence. So not only do candidates need a specific genetic profile, but they also need to be willing to give up their life without knowing whether that sacrifice is worthwhile or not, because they don't know what power they'll get. And if that power is effective for combat, they will likely never see the end of the war they've been created to fight.
God dang, dude. What? Okay. Ouch. Ouch, ouch.
Conceptually, Strikeforce might not be overly original.
Come on,
There
dude.
are
Come
1,000
on,
pieces of
dude. Oh
fiction
my
that deal with
God. The
alien
same road
invasions.
every time.
However, with all the
So
familiar elements one might recognize,
fucking
Gillis
steep
takes a
beyond
unique
belief.
approach to them, which makes it a highly engaging read. For example, the Horde set up a few Earth bases and randomly raid cities. They occupy very little space on the planet and don't do a full-scale invasion. They've no desire to take over the planet. They're not colonists. They are terrorists more than anything. For the most part, Earth operates normally for most people. They go about their day, never knowing if and when the aliens might descend from the skies and raid a city. It's very much a parallel to the zeitgeist of the 80s. The Cold War was a constant presence, and it was never known when the nukes might start to fall. To put it bluntly, it was a social environment where everyone was chill, trying to go about their daily lives. But mass annihilation and subconscious hysteria was always lingering near the surface. I suspect the Vietnam War was also an influence, because in the 80s, that topic was the subject of a lot of media. In particular, the premise of drafting young, inexperienced people to fight a war that had no rules and might never end. Unlike most conflict-based stories from that time, I wouldn't say Strikeforce Morichuri is anti-war. I mean, it's not pro-war. It's more of an examination of the inevitable consequences of an unavoidable war with an enemy that will not negotiate. The main characteristic of the aliens, the Horde, is they are hoarders. They covet everything they don't have.
Carl, it's me.
They've plundered many different civilizations and have collected numerous items they don't use or understand. They just want it all. Another aspect, which relates to their hoarding mentality, is all of their technology is stolen. They may be able to reverse engineer and manufacture equipment, but they don't create what they need.
You have to go cross country to make it to there.
For example, they didn't construct the starships they use. When a peaceful race made contact with them, the Horde killed them all, stole their equipment, and went into space as a nomadic species. So they're terrible, brutal thugs who lack any creativity. Overall, they treat humans with bemused contempt. Sure, humans fight back, but that's an annoyance more than anything. They never see us as a real threat. Continuing with the terrorist theme, the Horde engages in some truly terrible war crimes.
So great, Carl.
They abduct humans,
Carl, you know,
enslave
I
them,
like dating
and graft them into war
Uh-huh.
machines.
Yeah.
Those machines are then sent to battle Strikeforce Morichuri, who have to euthanize the very people they want to save.
We're in the slum.
Worst of all, in a stomach-churning display of cruelty, some captured humans are released in the upper atmosphere, where they fall to Earth like blazing falling stars. What works for Gillis's run is the level of humanity he injects into the characters.
I'd murder you.
Everyone, from the support
Don't
staff to the
don't
superheroes
spin me in a
themselves,
fucking
is a fully
circle
realized
because
person. You understand why they are part of this tragic, desperate
no,
effort to
every
save
time
humanity.
spin you in a circle, spin.
I would add there's
I
a
gotta
level
take
of
my hand. They
mobility
want
to
me to use the
everyone.
directional
Yet,
pad, I
it's not
guess.
founded on
Yep.
idealistic
Want me to react
concepts
to
of
it.
honor and glory.
I can't because I'm on
It's
mouse.
selfless and grounded in the reality of
I
the
really
duty
don't like
they
you
have to
controlling my
perform.
camera because you suck at it,
Motivations are
dude.
extremely varied. Some people have been inspired by
Because
the
you suck
propaganda
at
in the form
controlling my
of TV shows
camera.
and
Okay.
comic books.
I think we
And some
both
feel
know
their
you're a
lives are
little
going
bit-
nowhere, and they need to do something to feel like they matter. Even if that indistinct
God
something
damn,
is a
dude.
real
Here we
conflict,
go.
followed by a painful,
Here it is.
certain death.
Yep, I think I was
Some
supposed to
answer to a
turn
higher
there too,
power
is why.
and feel this is how
Nope,
they serve
keep
their
going.
creator. To one degree or another, everyone is
going.
looking for some sense of
Annoying.
meaning to their lives.
GTA. Calm down.
Patriotism is a pretty quiet element.
Fucking broke
The team
you.
doesn't
Look,
yell
it broke you.
slogans or act as propaganda
There you go.
dispensers.
Fucking broke you, dude.
They're all zealots to a degree,
I fucking
but that
broke
is
you,
heavily
bro.
balanced by the
There you go.
existential dread of
Good
encountering
boy.
randomly generated
Good
death.
boy.
They fight the good fight and tell themselves it's for a good reason, but they don't want to inspire others to be like them.
There you go.
Because living with
Be
a
a
death
good
sentence
boy.
is an abstract idea
See,
that
got a
becomes
little
more
crazy there,
concrete
dude.
and
Got a
more
little
horrific every
crazy.
day that passes. It's a type of self-abuse that only becomes more explicit once the Morichuri process begins. The emotional toll is highly noticeable during their downtime, or when they're ordered to stand
Let's go,
down
dude.
and not engage the enemy.
Simon Says,
There's
bro.
a level of
Let's
frustration
go.
that
Simon
boils over
Says.
as the team struggles with inaction, knowing they have a very limited time to make a difference. Sitting around, waiting for orders, or being told to make appearances to boost public morale is a waste of the sacrifice they've made, and they know it. So they rebel and take matters into their own hands, which creates political problems for their handlers, and ultimately it leads to reprisals from the aliens. Collectively, the team is very short-sighted, justifiably so. None of them can see beyond a year, and consequence is someone else's problem. They just want results. In other words, on an intellectual level, the team understands the importance of precision and striking when most effective. At the same time, on an emotional level, they're going to die, and they can't waste any moment of their lives. It's an extremely human reaction. In my opinion, one of the very subtle aspects of the series is the underlying coercion necessary to get people to willingly agree to the Morichuri process. When candidates are first brought in, they know their lives are forfeit. However, it's not until they are selected that they're finally shown the brutal consequences of that death sentence. It's horrifying and not at all glorious.
How does he
as
do
death
that?
should be. Now, they are given the option not to go through the mortuary process, which is where the coercion sneaks in below the surface. See, candidates notice they're in a very tiny group of individuals that are genetically suitable to become superheroes. In my opinion, those team sizes are intentionally kept small, because every individual realizes just how unique they are and how necessary it is to think and fly. Out of the billions of people on Earth, there is a highly limited amount of people who can save the Earth. Possibly, statistically, 100 or so worldwide have this capability.
Trying to give me some
Do you
competition?
really want to be the one person in that 100 that says, I'm going to pass? My life is worth more than the billions of others on the planet. Add in the fact that they specifically target younger people who may be easily influenced by idealistic things like honor and purpose. Also, the direct supervisors are all much older and more experienced. These elements together, the young individual that's been conditioned to defer to experienced authority figures, with the pressure of an immediate danger only they can address. And well, that's coercion, folks. Put in that situation, everyone with an ounce of humanity will accept those terms. The option to step away is lip service to a free choice. One of the qualities I noticed is the story doesn't attempt to either shock you or intentionally manufacture heartbreaking moments when a character dies. The shock and heartbreak is already baked into the premise. It doesn't need manipulation to heighten its effect. The one thing that unites them all, whether they die at a shopping mall or fighting the good fight, is the feeling of helplessness. There are very few Morichuri that meet their fate feeling they've done something that matters. Most feel they've not done enough, or they've been robbed of the potential to make a larger contribution. Every death is met with despair. The series doesn't glorify their sacrifice. It doesn't make them martyrs.
Come on, dude. Come on, dude.
It is. These young people are put into a position to make a sacrifice. It makes the reader ask, is
Come
this
on,
the
guys.
greater
Come
good,
on,
or is
guys.
this a
Come on,
desperate
guys.
measure
Come on,
taken by a
guys. Come on,
dying
guys.
race?
Stop. I know it's my car. Yeah, I'm being super careful.
Originally, Strikeforce Morichuri was pitched as a new universe title. However, the concept was
Look at it.
incompatible
Look
with
at
the
it.
overall direction of that line. Editor-in-Chief Jim Shooter, who spearheaded the new universe, was
We go.
resistant to
Yep.
Strikeforce becoming a standalone series that had no connection to either the new universe or the mainstream Marvel universe. But when Gillis and Anderson suggested they could take the idea to an independent publisher and keep the idea pure, Shooter conceded. He had the wherewithal to recognize a strong concept and didn't want to see it go elsewhere. The creators were inspired by Jack Kirby's approach to comics. Kirby had a habit of creating a large, diverse cast. He created character after character and swapped them in whenever he needed them. This is what Gillis and Anderson adopted. Except, when new characters were introduced, that typically meant others had to die, or were about
Fuck,
to die.
dude. Now you're keeping
They
pace
infused the
with
team
me?
with various powers and characteristics
Woo!
in an effort to capture Kirby's
Whoa,
level of
whoa, whoa. Okay,
creativity.
calm down. Calm
And it
down.
works. It works
It's the
very,
truck.
very
It's
well.
the truck.
The
They're
one
using the
question I
car as
followed
an
up with
excuse,
an
bro.
answer was, why did Gillis and
It's a
Anderson lead the
horrible truck.
series? Honestly, I don't know. I simply could not find an interview with either Gillis or Anderson that gave a reason. I don't know if sales were slipping and Marvel decided to replace them, or whether they collectively decided it was time to move on.
All right, let's have us some coffee.
What's the matter, Bubs?
James Hudnall had the difficult task of taking
I'm
over
not
a
big on the
series in
matching.
progress and making
The
his
girls
mark.
like it.
Considering Strikeforce would only last 11 more issues, I presume he was given a year to turn it around and make it successful. Again, presumably, that didn't happen. This part of the series is rather different. It focuses more on corporate interference and the reasons for the war being perpetuated, especially once the war is abruptly concluded and the Horde is eradicated. Overall, events happen pretty fast. It becomes plot-heavy, as opposed to an intimate exploration of character. I would even say the main Morichuri characters kind of become generic, and a little bland. They take a backseat to the action-focused plot. Speaking of which, the plot does have a number of moving parts, all of which are simplified to a degree. Again, I have to presume Hudnall was aware the series was running out of room to breathe. So he cut the story to the basics and got to the required Marvel action story he was hired to write.
Put it in the bot.
That may sound a bit generous, but I think Hudnall did the best under the circumstances
Yeah,
he
see, I'm
faced.
leaving it on Steam, actually.
However, it definitely doesn't have the depth and subtlety of the preceding 20 issues. This run, and the follow-up miniseries, Electric Undertow, are an okay coda that wrap up the plot beats so there's a sense of finality. Admittedly, it's not satisfying on an emotional level, but it does the trick if one simply
Oh, I
wants
think
some
the
story
tow truck
closure.
is getting towed.
I know that
Oh, did he get
sounds
stuck in the
politely
mud?
dismissive,
Yeah, he
and it
did. He
is
got
to a
stuck.
degree. It simply doesn't compare to
Yeah.
the foundation established by Gillis and Anderson. Objectively, on its own, it's fine.
Oh, Dad, I finally
It's not a
learned
hack job,
four-wheel
but it
drive
is
and
quite
all-wheel
generic.
drive. It's that four-wheel drive, fully locked
Sadly,
up,
Gillis was a highly overlooked creator
like
whose comic
your
career
tires
stalled
can't
out in
turn
the
at
very
different
early
It doesn't
90s.
have differential.
He had
Yeah.
It's called a
significant runs on the
It
differential.
No
locks its
Defenders,
differential.
So they're
Micronauts,
locked.
and Strange
which is
Tales.
really bad for turning because you need
At
that
DC,
turn.
he
But
developed the
sometimes
note Tail
that's
Gunner Joe
better
with the penciler
because if you
Tom
have a
Artis.
slipping wheel,
This
Exactly.
6-issue
the
series
lock
was intended to be
will
12
keep it from
issues,
sitting
but
there
was
spinning.
dramatically shortened for some unknown reason.
Cat?
It's a heartbreaking story that contains some of the
But,
elements seen in
So yeah, I
Skyfall's
think it's better to
Morituri.
have.
It's for
It's about
off-road.
someone young forced into a
You
combat
don't want
situation
differential.
while adapting to their
Yeah.
abilities
But some
and
people
learning
say
to
you
accept
do.
their death.
It's
There's
you
also an
don't want it
authoritative father figure who's in
if
control.
you're in that type
Conceptually,
of if
it's
your
pretty
car
out
is
there,
going to be
but
running
it
abuse in the
works.
environment, like
Yeah.
Unfortunately, its
off-roading
ending is
or
rather
muddy
quick, and
and wet
probably
and
would have had
slippery.
more impact
But if
if
it's
the
just
story
an
was allowed to
in-town
breathe a
car,
little bit more.
it's really bad because
Historically,
you can't
Gillis may
exactly
be
turn
remembered
very
as the
much
writer
Yeah,
or
and
yeah.
very sharply at
co-creator
all
of
if
the
you don't
first
have a
digitally
differential.
produced
Yeah,
ongoing
yeah.
series,
The
Shatter.
inside wheel,
Spins
All
at a
of this
different
illustrates
rate
yet
than the
another
outside. I never
illustrative
thought about
the
that.
career,
inside of a
and in my
circle
No,
opinion,
it's smaller.
highlight the
exactly
Strike
smaller than
Force
the outside of
So
a
Morituri.
that's
circle.
why you have to have a
So your
differential.
outside wheels are
Creator
turning a
Brent
lot
Anderson had
faster
a
and
very
more
long,
often than your
successful
inside
But then
career.
wheels.
four-wheel drive, you can
Notably,
lock
he was the
that.
primary
And then
artist for the
all-wheel
But in
long-running
drive.
four-wheel
series,
drive, you're only
Astro
going 5
City.
to 10, and you're not
In
going around
fact,
corners.
he's still
And then
active
all-wheel drive
today,
is
but it seems he's at least
So that's the way.
semi-retired.
I think all-wheel drive,
Together
that's
they
why they came
created
out. You
something
don't have to fuck
unique
with it.
and
exactly.
compelling.
It's better all
It's a
around,
terrible no-win
right?
situation
It's a
where
little
humanity
worse.
somehow
And then four-wheel
survives
drive is
despite the
still
overwhelming
better if you
odds.
know what you're
The
doing.
cost is high,
And then
All,
you're
the
actually
necessary
driving in
tactics
an
are
off-road
unethical,
environment.
all-wheel
but it
drive
highlights the people,
it
their
does a little worse
motivations,
on
and the tragedy of
outdoor.
the
It
ultimate
does a little
selfless
worse
sacrifice one
on
can make for the benefit of others.
regular street, but it's better. It's just an overall.
Yeah, yeah. And anytime you get snow or stuff on the road, that's all-wheel drive is supposed to be pretty good. Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Now I should mention that I recently posted a 30-minute video to Patreon. Due to various restrictions on YouTube, I cannot post it here without massive edits. Anyway, it covers the oddball history of strange brain parts.
I
before
figured out
focused
how
on
I got
comics.
fat again.
There is tons of, air quotes, lost media, a few full videos, and behind-the-scenes information that elaborates on how this channel evolved. So if that's your thing, support this channel on Patreon and
that
get the
Katie's
backstory to
vehicle?
strange brain parts. It's
truck?
probably weirder than you might think.
Let's try that truck. This truck's a
Of
piece of
course,
shit.
thanks to all my current supporters
Ford
on Patreon
Ranger. The Ford
and
Ranger in this
YouTube.
game's a
I
piece of
greatly
shit.
appreciate your ongoing support. It
This
makes
is an
a big
old
difference,
150, I think.
believe me.
Yep.
You make it possible for this channel
Sadler.
to continue on a regular basis. So
See
thank
if it's
you
a little
once
bit
again.
better. Okay, where are we at? It's
Extra
8
special
o'clock.
thanks to Andrew Barton,
Well,
Chapel Pluto,
Helena is
Constant
probably
Disappointment
back,
Records,
maybe not
Corey
Christmas
Drew,
treated.
Edward Clayton Andrew, Francis De La
Katie's
Cruz,
at 12 o'clock.
Green Man, James
Let's
Graham,
go
Jeff
see if
Nicholson,
Katie's home.
John Gaunt, John Nyhus, John Woolham, Matt Marino, Odin Ashcroft, Phil Sagan,
See, this is the
Plutocracy,
secret, right? See,
Ruby
this is a
St.
big old
Dennis,
fucking thing in the
Russell
way.
Bull,
What about these
Shaq
railroad
Miller,
tracks, dude?
Sick N, Spencer Estes, and Tom
Oh, it
Granis.
doesn't go
They
under.
were all justified and ancient.
So yeah, just go here, here. Yeah, that's the best way. Let's see, go here. Oh, mouse ain't working. Yeah, going here, this dirt road. Where's it? You can go to dirt road. Perfect, beautiful. Get on the dirt road. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, nice. Look at that. Yeah, that's a better truck. And then we're gonna go around. We can make this. We can make this. We can make this. We got this. We got this. Oh yeah! Look at that. Boom, railroad track. Then we make it right there, dude. We got this. Boom! Look at him go. Look at him go. Look at him go. Look at him go. Boom. There we go. All right, I'm coming, Katie. Oh, oi!
In Christ, all things in heaven and on earth were created, things visible and invisible.
Yeah, that's a much better truck.
Things have been created through him and for him. You are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they existed and were created.
Let us pray. God our Father, you have created the heavens and the earth, and made us in your own image. Teach us to see your hand in all your works, and your likeness in all your children, through Christ our Lord. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all.
She used her directions. Dude, I was looking at the map. Just looking at the map, you freaks.
Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of the robbery at the Louvre Museum in Paris, France. First I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. The Louvre Museum is a national art museum in Paris, France. It contains about 500,000 objects like paintings, jewelry, and sculptures. At 780,000 square feet, it is the largest museum in the world. It is also the most visited museum, with over 8 million visitors a year.
Nice, Katie.
Throughout its history, there have been a few high-profile thefts from the Louvre Museum. Most notoriously, in 1911, a former employee took the Mona Lisa.
Hey, Carl, you hungry?
It was recovered 2 years later. In 1976, 3 perpetrators climbed up scaffolding on the side of the museum and broke a window. They took a sword used in the coronation of King Charles X. The sword was never recovered. In 1983, a breastplate and a ceremonial helmet were stolen. The items were recovered in 2021 when an expert in antiques spotted them during an appraisal for an estate. And in 1998, a small $1.3 million painting was stolen in broad daylight while the museum was open to the public. It was never recovered. Over the years, many people have been critical about the low level of security at the Louvre Museum. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On Sunday, October 19, 2025...
Dude, you're literally staying in the... Oh my god. Oh my...
At 9:30 a.m., 4 perpetrators arrived at the south side of the museum. They had 3 vehicles with them. A small truck equipped with an electrically powered ladder, commonly used in Paris to move furniture
And I'm
in
getting
and out
fat.
of apartment buildings. And 2 Yamaha T-Max scooters.
Katie was low. I had to
Scooters
take Katie
appropriate
out,
for
bro.
less experienced riders because they do not require manual gear shifting. These scooters can reach speeds of about 100 miles per hour and are a popular choice for a quick getaway. They parked on the street that runs the length of the south side of the museum, adjacent to the River Seine. The perpetrators were wearing yellow and orange vests and put down traffic cones, which made them look like construction workers. There was construction work going on nearby, so this was an effective disguise. The perpetrators extended the ladder to the second-floor balcony of the Apollo Gallery. This gallery, which was built in 1661, housed a collection of historic crown jewels, 105 pieces in total. Two of the criminals climbed the ladder to the second floor and made it to a window. At 9:34 a.m., they broke the window using a gasoline-powered 4.4 horsepower cut-off saw. This power tool is designed for cutting through metal and masonry, but it can also cut through other materials like glass. The media has repeatedly referred to this tool as an angle grinder, but that description is not precise. When they entered the gallery, an alarm was triggered and security guards responded. The perpetrators threatened them with the cut-off saw, so the security guards fled the gallery. After approaching glass display cases in the center of the room, the criminals cut into two of them.
No, I'm fat. No
This
more dates,
triggered
bro.
additional alarms.
No more dates, bro.
This, of course, would only send more security guards
No
heading
more
for the
dates
exit.
for a minute.
In less than 4 minutes, the perpetrators took 9 pieces of jewelry from the 2 display cases: a tiara, necklace, and 1 earring from a sapphire set that belonged to the last Queen of France. The tiara contained 24 sapphires and 1,083 diamonds, and the necklace contained 8 sapphires and 631 diamonds. An emerald necklace and emerald earrings from the collection of Empress Marie-Louise, the second wife of Napoleon I. A tiara containing almost 2,000 diamonds, a brooch, and a large bodice knot, which is like a brooch, that belonged to Empress Eugenie, the third wife of Napoleon III, and the crown of Empress Eugenie, which contained 56 emeralds and 1,354 diamonds. At 9:38 a.m., the perpetrators climbed down the ladder. They dropped the crown of Empress Eugenie in the street while making their escape. The other 2 criminals were waiting on the Yamaha scooters, ready to make a getaway. Before leaving, the criminals attempted to set fire to the ladder truck, undoubtedly to destroy evidence, but an employee of the museum prevented them from achieving this goal. All 4 perpetrators left on the scooters. The crown of Empress Eugenie was recovered at the scene. It had been damaged. At the time I'm making this video, the investigation into this theft is underway. This was an extremely high-profile crime, about as brazen and attention-grabbing as any theft could be. Hundreds of police officers have been assigned to find the perpetrators. Now moving to my analysis. It seems pretty likely that the perpetrators in this case will be arrested eventually. The police have recovered many items involved in the theft that could aid in the identification of the offenders. For example, the ladder truck, one of the Yamaha scooters, a cut-off saw, a blowtorch, gloves, a walkie-talkie, a can of gasoline, a blanket, a motorcycle helmet, and a high-visibility vest. The perpetrators could have left DNA behind on any number of objects, including the crown of Empress Eugenie, which they dropped on the street during their getaway. Initially, a number of media commentators suggested that the perpetrators could have been working for some type of shadowy billionaire collector. I picture someone like Dr. Evil from the Austin Powers movies, an eccentric criminal who wanted to add jewelry to his private collection for his personal enjoyment only, never to be seen by the public again. These are not the types of items that somebody can sell at a local jewelry store or pawn shop. They are unique and distinctive. There's a big difference between getting an appraisal on a half-carat diamond ring and a tiara covered in diamonds. This evil billionaire motive seems incredibly unlikely. If the perpetrators were working for someone like this, they would not have left behind a $60 million diamond during the theft. Here I'm talking about the Regent diamond, which was right near the other items that they took. They deliberately targeted jewelry that could be broken apart, meaning they could sell the components without attracting attention. The offenders could melt down the valuable metal and recut some of the stones. I believe these criminals were simply looking to make money. The cultural significance of the jewelry was not important to them. They didn't steal the items because of the history behind them, rather exclusively due to their monetary value. The authorities estimate the stolen jewels are worth about $102 million, excluding any cultural value, although the thieves will be unlikely to make that much from selling them. This brings me to the question, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. The four perpetrators of this crime are most likely men with criminal histories. It is relatively uncommon to find four men who are willing to work together in a complex and high-profile conspiracy outside the realm of organized crime. These probably were not 9-to-5 workers in normal jobs who just decided one day to rob the Louvre Museum. It would be unusual to start a criminal career with a major museum heist. This is the type of crime that an antisocial offender works up to, not one that begins his career. If they have been involved with the justice system, as I suspect, their DNA and fingerprints are in a database from prior arrests. In all likelihood, the idea for the heist came from just one of the men, who in turn communicated this idea to his conspirators. He knew they would be receptive because they are all involved in organized crime. The man probably paid a visit to the Louvre Museum and realized the security wasn't exactly world-class. The authorities admitted that 1/3 of the rooms in the wing where the theft took place had no security cameras. And, as I mentioned, the security guards fled after being threatened with a power tool. They make Paul Blart, mall cop, look like Rambo. Some security guards are trained to observe and report. These guys were trained to scream and run. The only way they could be considered dangerous is if they accidentally collided with a tourist on the way out. To be fair, a cutoff saw is a very scary tool. These security guards would not have had much chance against it unless they had firearms. The four offenders carefully planned the robbery. They somehow acquired the ladder truck, the Yamaha scooters, and the cutoff saw. I imagine some, if not all, of these items were stolen, although they could have been rented under a fake identity. The men used tools sufficient to cut through the window and the display cases. This suggests a familiarity with both the power tools and the material used in the museum, like the material used to construct the window and the display cases. The nearby construction work handed the men an easy tactic to remain inconspicuous. People don't look twice at construction workers. Ironically, in the world of theft at least, orange cones and high-visibility vests make people invisible. The men knew that alarms would sound when they broke in, so the key to their plan was speed. They only spent 3 minutes and 50 seconds inside the Apollo Gallery. The items to be stolen were selected precisely and with care. The men did not let themselves get too greedy, only breaking into 2 display cases and leaving behind many other valuable items. Speed was such a concern that in their haste, the men dropped the crown of Empress Eugenie. They could have gone back to retrieve it, but they left it behind, holding themselves to a strict timetable to maintain their escape. Another clever move was to use relatively powerful and easy-to-drive scooters. This allowed them to maneuver through traffic, drive between cars, and fit into narrow alleys. Undoubtedly, they abandoned the scooters once they were away from the scene and used other vehicles to continue their escape. Considering how carefully the men planned their crime, it stands to reason they also made plans to convert the jewelry into cash. They are probably not sitting around wondering what to do with it. Rather, the items may have already been melted down and recut. These offenders recognize the value of speed. They are not going to hold on to unique and easily identifiable jewelry for too long. As far as the personality characteristics of the men, it's likely they had clinical or subclinical psychopathic traits. For example, they may have been impulsive, irresponsible, reckless, remorseless, grandiose, manipulative, fearless, cold, callous, and excitement-seeking. There's a pretty good chance that at least a few of the men would qualify for an antisocial personality disorder diagnosis. About 70% of prison inmates have this disorder. As I mentioned, in the end, these perpetrators will probably be arrested. It's unlikely that they could have kept all their DNA off every item they touched during the crime. The authorities in France are certainly going to go over every item very carefully. They will not miss any DNA. After being arrested, some of the men may forever deny responsibility. Others may embrace their notoriety, like their grandiosity, get the best of them. Either way, they will be notorious. By stealing items with historical significance, they will become historic offenders. I guess that's one way to appreciate the importance of the items they liberated in Paris. Those are my thoughts on the case of the theft from the Louvre Museum. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you soon.
Sarah, how you felt about that?
They should have let him perform the real version of the song. I mean, biggest reaction in the crowd.
Yeah.
Like quick zoom in on this guy.
And so they know it's like, all right, well, you cut to JV, it'll be all right.
Oh. Is that going to get Johnny a talking to?
Bust it.
I'm busting it.
My name's Johnny V. I don't know anything. You see me? You don't see clearly. I'm with my man Dave Lang to my left and my man Jeff Gerspit. You know what? What the heck? We gonna rap real quick. This is how we do it. We've been known to be ridiculous. Giant bomb every single year. Wrap up. You know what? It's on. Grab an ear. Yo, hold it close real quick. What does it sound? It sounds ridiculous. It doesn't matter because I'm always getting fatter, but not as fatter as my friends who are the best. It doesn't matter, but I'm still trying to be the best. One day I will be able to talk about what I'm working on, but doesn't matter because I'm a phenomenon. And Adam doesn't believe me, but that's okay because I still am trying to be easy. Call me Johnny VZ, and I got the best friends next to me. And Jeff, you are super cool. I miss you. I didn't mean it like that because he rules and Giant Bomb is down. Because all the dudes that are listening in right now, think quick. Because you know what? We are so ridiculous. I'll say it again. I'll say it one more time. Give me another word that I can't with rhyme. What?
It's kind of uses slow down and chill. Slow down and chill. Slow down and chill.
What? So, the fastest death. The fastest death ever.
Hope you don't mind.
We went over.
I'm looking at myself right now. I'm like,
You think you saw that, but you didn't.
You're seeing a massive wave of Christianity, and you're also seeing a massive wave of Satanism. And it seems like we're approaching the final division. On the rise, sex trafficking, human trafficking.
We are clearly moving towards something big. Who doesn't feel that? Everybody feels it. The divide is spiritual.
I think
Clearly,
it's
we're under the oppression of evil, trying to hurt people for the sake of hurting people. You thought some politician was going to save you? Are you worshiping people now? You don't worship people.
All the things, the defund the police, BLM, Antifa, the war, it's all seems to be starting to die down a little bit. And what I'm seeing, and maybe this is just because I'm that interested in it, is you're seeing a massive wave of Christianity coming, and you're also seeing a massive wave of Satanism. And it seems like we're approaching the final division. You're seeing pedophiles on the rise, sex trafficking, human trafficking. I mean, the U.S. is the #1 consumer of kiddie porn on the planet, and you just see this good and evil just going farther and farther apart, and it's becoming, at least from my point of view, it's becoming.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more vehemently, and I don't have too many, great insights into things or prophetic feelings. I'm very conventional, but the one thing that I really felt strongly a couple of years ago was really strongly, I felt it overwhelmingly, like from outside me, was that there's some form of religious revival coming. I felt that really strongly. And I'm like an extremely secular person. Obviously, I say fuck every other word. I'm sorry that I do that. I shouldn't. I definitely grew up that way. So, for me to have that insight, but overwhelming. And I said it to a couple of friends of mine who were very secular. I'm like, what? But I felt it, and that has turned out, I think, to be true. And I have no idea where it's going. And I get a lot of people coming to my barn, every day, literally every day, and leaving me big stacks and stuff on the end times. And I think history ends. I think we all sort of sense history ends.
But it's also really clear that we don't know when it ends. So I kind of resent that a little bit because it's like, what are you, God? Like, you know the future? We don't know the future. We can't know. We're not going to know the future, okay? That's very clear. And I believe it. So, but we
My
are
own
clearly moving
girlfriend.
towards something big. Who doesn't feel that? Everybody feels it. And it is, the divide is spiritual. And I try to be mindful of my own sort of sectarian limitations. Like when you're one thing, you think everyone else should be that thing or whatever. And I really am a Christian, or attempting to
Let's
be.
go for a ride and take in some scenery.
But
No problem.
I think it's enough to say the people who know they're not God, who show reverence before a power bigger than themselves, like those people are on our side. That's how I personally feel. And I think you need to believe in Jesus.
Don't have to eat.
Okay, but I am also willing to believe that as a functional matter, the people.
I could shoot you and no one
I had
would
an
say
experience
a
of
thing.
this. Is like, I'm sure will offend a lot
That's
of people,
true,
but it's
though.
real. I was flying to the Middle East recently, and I was on one of those planes with the double-decker planes, A380s, I think, were a big plane. And I go back,
This is
take
a
a
nice,
leak,
responsible
and
speed.
it's like everyone's asleep or whatever on the plane.
Isn't this
And
speed a
there's like
little
the little bar area, there's like an
irresponsible?
open area. And there's a guy, he looked to be South Asian, he looked Pakistani to me, but maybe not.
My
Had to be
husband called me a
70 years
control
old.
freak.
And he's got his prayer mat out, and he's praying. There's no one around, and he's praying. In the middle of the flight, and everyone's asleep. And I've never been particularly pro-Islam. In fact, I was very anti-Islam for a long time. And I thought to myself, I'm not a Muslim. I'm never going to be a Muslim. I disagree with Islam in a lot of ways.
Never drive
But a
behind
guy
you
who's
until it's
taking his time,
nice to see
taking
you
time out
drive
in the middle of a fucking
responsibly.
flight when everyone's asleep, to acknowledge that he's not God and bow before his
Crime
God.
figures have shot up all
I don't think
over
that
the
man's
state.
my enemy
I
on
had
a
a
deep
great
level.
time,
I
but
just
I
don't.
need to
I'm
get
sorry.
out.
Call me like a tool of Muhammad or something. I'm not. I'm a Christian. But like, how is that guy my enemy?
You
He's a
fancy a
massive
coffee or
improvement over everyone in DC who thinks they're God. Like, I do think that. I'm sorry. I do. There's something about the humility of acknowledging I'm not in charge. I can't see the future. I'm totally imperfect. That is the most important thing. And that's how I kind of see the spiritual divide. That said, Christianity seems to be growing in power even as the church is collapsing into absurdity. Church leaders, not all, but a lot of them are totally corrupt. I don't know what's going on with the Pope. I'm not Catholic, so I'm not going to comment on that. But like, whoa, doesn't look like Christianity to me.
It's another symbol.
On the other hand, the number of Catholics, some of my closest friends are Catholic, a lot of my closest friends are Catholic, they're the most fervent, sincere, on-target Christians I know. I'm just saying that. They are. I mean, I'm sorry. Maybe their theology is wrong. I don't know. It's not up for me to judge, but they are serious Christians, and they mean it, and their life is bearing the fruit of those beliefs. In other words, as the church, like the structure collapses, some of the members of the church seem even stronger.
All right,
Have you noticed this?
Well, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about this morning. The
Having
church is
jetpack
not.
still? No.
You know, I'm new at
Back
this.
home?
Oh, me too. Oh, gosh.
The church is not a brick and mortar structure.
No.
The church is the living body of believers in God and Jesus Christ. That is it. There's no club. There's no, I'm in this
Yeah,
camp.
keep
and
telling
you're in
yourself that, bro.
camp. You're either in the church or you're not. It's not a fucking brick and mortar.
I totally agree. But you see it. All of a sudden you see it. I mean, I made it like 50 years, more than 50 years in this country without really talking. I mean, where I worked, in the media, television, people come in and like talk about whatever, some threesome they had, or they're doing meth over the weekend. And I'm like, people are pretty far out, in TV, because it's like, it's all theater kids. It's all people who project and share too much. So I just worked in a world where people just would like tell you their deepest secrets, like at the drop of a hat. I don't think I ever one time heard someone mention a spiritual dimension in his life, ever. That was totally verboten. Like, that was the one thing you could not talk about. I've never heard anybody talk about spirituality. It was so embarrassing.
You could talk
Your
about
freaky
getting
sex life was
high, but
embarrassing.
you couldn't talk
The idea you
about
might pray, highly
what you were
embarrassing.
feeling while you, yeah.
And that's just the world I've lived in. I mean,
Weird,
I'm hardly bragging about it. I'm ashamed of it. It's ridiculous, actually, but that is just true. And for the record, I was not into meth or freaky sex shit, at all. Very conventional person, but I was around that a lot. And all of a sudden, in the last few years, just random sort of normal secular American people are like, I was praying about that, or I think God's doing this, or like, wait, what? We were not, okay, I have a good memory. That's like my one superpower. We were not having these conversations in my world 5 years ago. Nobody.
Yeah.
So what is that? There's something going on, And of course, that's the way God works. You know, evil is not unchallenged. Clearly, we're under the oppression of evil, not just the Biden administration, which is just a manifestation of it, but there's something way bigger, trying to hurt people for the sake of hurting people with climate change or manufactured famines, which are clearly that's going on. And
managing a household, especially with kids, is no small feat. I totally get it, and that's why I've made sure my family has a plan in place if something unexpected ever happens. But what about you? Do you have a plan to help protect your family's financial future? Don't worry. Fabric by Gerber Life can help. Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance you can get done today. Made for busy parents like you, all online, on your schedule, right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required. Fabric has flexible, high-quality policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Fabric also has free digital wills, tools to invest in your kids' future, and more, all right from your phone. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/srclips. That's meetfabric.com/srclips. meetfabric.com/srclips. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions.
You know, pharma stuff. It's all evil, right? It's very obvious, and everyone watching this, I think, knows. Of course, everyone knows what I'm talking about. But that's not going to happen in a vacuum. That can't happen. That's not how it works. That's not how the universe works. That's not how God works. So as that stuff rises in power, so does God, who's more powerful. And I know how the story ends. He wins. So that's true. I'm not afraid at all. So, but it's cool to see it. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like
I do.
God is showing his face more? I mean, is that...
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He literally just grabbed me by the collar and was like, and and ever since he got my attention, I'm all in, and it's
fuck with the church, bro.
There's nothing that gives me hope. There's no presidential candidate. There's no politician. There's nobody. There is no human that gives me hope.
It's all part of the deception.
And who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't think I'm wrong. But I look at all these things that we're seeing with the gender wars, with the race wars, with the division, with the right and left, with the Easter Sunday is now Trans Visibility Day. The Pope is saying that gay marriage is great. Look, I don't give a shit about gay marriage. But I'm sorry, but it's the Pope is not the man to change the Bible or the Word of God.
Or just take 3 steps back. What is that? It's like, don't get lost in the weeds of the details. Like, that's fucked up. You're serving the other team. I'm sorry, you are.
But what I'm getting at is I look at all this stuff as symbology, and it's symbolizing that all this stuff that I had dismissed for years is very real.
It's the only thing that is real, actually.
And so it gives me, when I see this stuff, it still pisses me off and enrages me, and the Easter thing really threw me.
Oh yeah.
But
at least they're showing their face.
Once it's been going on
long. They murdered the president of the United States and lied about it. So, right, okay. So this has been going on a long time, long before we were born. In fact, it's been going on for all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this about the Christians, to their great credit, they're not shocked at all. I'm like, well, what did you think? You thought some politician was going to save you? You're worshiping people now? You don't worship people.
Yeah.
They're people. No one's going to save you in this life. That's a lie. And by the way, shame on you for believing it, you fool.
Yeah.
That's how they feel about it. And the rest of us, the dumb people like me, are like, I can't believe it's not real. They've been lying to me. I can't believe it. All the stories you told me there's no Santa? Seriously? And the Christian's just like, what? Of course it's fake. Like, are you kidding? We don't fight against... It's not against men. Like, this is... it's the same thing that's been going on again for all time, that every other civilization has believed in as its core belief, except us. And we're like shocked. I can't believe it that our stupid post-war materialist theology turned out to be fake. Who could have guessed?
Yeah. But that's what gives me hope. You know, it's seeing all the symbology. Yeah.
Totally, and also you're kind of commanded, or you are commanded, to be hopeful and cheerful and joyful. And if you're not, then that's kind of on you. Then, you know what I mean? Then you obviously don't believe it. I mean, I stopped going to church during COVID for that exact reason, when the priestess at our church was like, which is itself like nuts, but whatever. The denomination I grew up in was nuts. I didn't quite realize how nuts until COVID. And then the rector of the church is like, well, we can't have services because I'm afraid of getting COVID and dying. And it's like, you're afraid of dying? Really? You're afraid? Their whole religion was not to be afraid of dying. Like, the whole point of our religion is that we don't need to be afraid of dying. Like, what's the other point? I don't know. Do we have another point? I think that is the point. And so if you're afraid of dying, but I remember being so shocked by that. And I went home and said to my wife, I was like, we're not going to church again. This chick says she's afraid of dying. I was like, what? And we were both like, almost in, because we really did grow up in this church, and I was like, we were both so shocked. And then looking back 4 years later, I'm like, I can't believe we were shocked. Like, how dumb were we? How naive were we?
Yeah.
Of course, people are deceptive, but lies are always exposed, like, in the end, and they're not going to win. They may have some temporary, ground-gaining offensives, but they're not going to win.
Yeah.
Are they?
No, they're not.
Can I say one last thing?
Absolutely.
Because I know a lot of these people the people I'm always railing against, and I hate them and all that stuff, but, like, they're totally suffering now. They're miserable. Like, I think if you looked inside Tony Blinken's soul, you would not find anything interesting or profound at all. At all. It's as, like, banal as you imagine it is. This is my guess. But I think you would find a lot of turmoil and unhappiness and insecurity, barely sublimated rage, unhappiness, chaos.
Yeah.
And I think that is true of all these people. You think Joe Biden is happy? Or his creepy fake doctor wife, or any of these people. Gavin Newsom, you really think he's like got a joyful life? Like, these people are living in hell now, actually. And so I do think that should be a marker. If you're looking at who to believe, who to put your confidence in, not your faith. Put your faith in no man, but your confidence. I think the first thing you have to assess is this person happy, is joyful? Because if he's not, he's clearly on the wrong path. He's following a lie, knowingly or not. Like, I think it's a fair way to assess.
Yeah, that's a damn good point.
So if you wake up in a society run by unhappy women and the weak men who make them unhappy, these are not people worth following.
That's a damn good point.
We're producing unhappy women. That's the only thing we produce now. Our steel industry has died. We don't produce good cars, but we do produce a lot of unhappy women. A ton, like a surfeit. Actually, we can't even export them at this point. Sorry, it's true.
If you looked at export,
you can't export them.
Yeah,
it's like no one wants them.
No matter where you're watching Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.
Thomas Hobbes was born prematurely on April 5th, 1588, in Westport, England. His mother, terrified by news of the approaching Spanish Armada threatening invasion, went into early labor. Hobbes would later write that fear and I were born twins together, a statement that would prove prophetic for a philosopher who made fear the cornerstone of political obligation. Born into modest circumstances, Hobbes received his education through the patronage of a wealthy uncle who recognized his intellectual gifts. At Oxford, he studied the traditional Aristotelian curriculum, logic, rhetoric, and scholastic philosophy. though he found much of it intellectually stagnant. What truly shaped Hobbes's thinking was what came after Oxford. His position as tutor to the Cavendish family, one of England's most prominent aristocratic houses. This wasn't merely employment, it was intellectual liberation. The position provided Hobbes access to extensive libraries, European travel, and England's political elite. During 3 grand tours of the continent between 1610 and 1636, Hobbes encountered the scientific revolution firsthand. He met Galileo Galilei in Florence, discussed philosophy with René Descartes and Pierre Gassendi in Paris, and witnessed the transformation of natural philosophy through mathematics and empirical observation. This exposure to the new science profoundly influenced Hobbes's approach to politics. If Galileo could mathematize motion and reduce physical phenomena to matter in motion, governed by natural laws, why couldn't political philosophy achieve similar rigor? Why couldn't human behavior and social organization be analyzed with geometric precision, starting from first principles rather than inherited authority? It was England's descent into constitutional crisis and civil war that transformed Hobbes from a talented scholar into a revolutionary political theorist. Throughout the 1630s, tensions between King Charles I and Parliament escalated over questions of taxation, religious authority, and sovereign prerogative. In 1642, these tensions exploded into armed conflict. The English Civil War was catastrophic. It wasn't a conflict between nations, but a war within a nation. Indeed, within communities, even families. Royalists fought parliamentarians, Anglicans fought Puritans, neighbors killed neighbors over competing claims about who possessed legitimate authority and on what grounds. Contemporary estimates suggest approximately 200,000 deaths, nearly 4% of England's population, making it proportionally one of the bloodiest conflicts in English history. Hobbes, who harbored royalist sympathies and feared for his safety, fled to France in 1640. He would remain in exile for 11 years, watching from Paris as his homeland tore itself apart. In 1649, the unthinkable occurred. Parliament tried, convicted, and publicly executed King Charles I. The traditional foundation of political authority, divine right monarchy, sanctioned by God and legitimized by hereditary succession, had been literally decapitated. It was in this context of trauma, exile, and civilizational collapse that Hobbes composed Leviathan. He wasn't engaged in abstract speculation, but attempting to solve the most urgent practical problem imaginable. How do you prevent political society from destroying itself? What is the foundation of legitimate authority when traditional foundations have failed?
It's 1965. Jim Shooter is 13, his family's broke, and like a lot of kids his age, he's reading comics. Except Jim's also writing them for DC to help pay the bills. By 26, he's Marvel's youngest ever editor-in-chief, leading them to Secret Wars, the X-Men Renaissance, and an apex of storytelling the industry likely will never see again. He's basically the Mozart of four-color storytelling. So when he spoke about comics, people knew they should listen. In 1998, Jim Shooter wrote a book proposal, Supervillains, The Decline and Fall of the Comic Book Industry. It sat unpublished until August of 2025, when it hit his blog weeks after his death at 73. His predictions about the downfall of comics, every single one came true. The industry still pretending they never heard the warnings. What happens when the profit of comics is ignored and every warning becomes reality? Stick around. This is the story the industry prayed you'd never hear. But first, a quick shout out to the 616 Comics. They support honest conversation in the industry and help me keep delivering amazing videos. If you want the most badass exclusive variant covers and the best prices on ratio variants, check out their site. Special discount code in the video description. Shooter's opening salvo is pure napalm. Financial predators swoop to attack this plump, defenseless little business, damaging its markets, driving away talent, and cutting out the creative heart. Marvel in the 80s. X-Men and Spider-Man are flying off shelves. Creativity for days. And the future is bulletproof. Enter Ron Perlman, a Wall Street shark who couldn't care less about comics, but wanted the brand. In 1989, he buys Marvel for $82.5 million. Classic corporate raider. Load the company with debt, strip it for assets, and squeeze every last penny out. Shooter watched the magic die in real time, writing, "When you let the money men run the show, you lose the heart. And without the heart, you're just printing paper." But Perlman wasn't alone. Mario Gabelli and other Wall Street vultures fed, treating Marvel's iconic characters like a pump and dump play. Spider-Man became a revenue stream. X-Men? Intellectual property. The Fantastic Four? Just a line on a balance sheet. Shooter spells it out. They turned storytelling into spreadsheets. Characters became assets. Creators became content providers. The magic died in a boardroom. And the bleeding began. Under Perlman's reign, Marvel went public. Buying Heroes World was supposed to be their masterstroke. You might want to write that one down. It's going to matter later. And then came the fire sale. Movie rights to A-list heroes, a crash, bankruptcy, and finally carved up like a Thanksgiving turkey. The House of Ideas became a cautionary tale. What happens when Wall Street gets its claws into creativity? Fast forward to 2009. Disney drops $4 billion on Marvel because Bob Iger needed a boys brand to sit next to his princesses. Marvel became glorified R&D. Keep the trademarks alive, skip any real publishing strategy, feed the DEI machine, and let the real money roll in from movies and merch. That's why Shooter's words hit even harder today. When your publishing division exists to serve your media division, you're not a comic company anymore. You're a licensing operation with delusions of grandeur. Corporate raiders use the Marvel playbook on any comic company worth $1. Buy the IP, screw the comics, gut the talent, milk the brand, repeat. Comics turn into content farms, and content farms don't create classic stories. They serve quarterly quotas. Shooter's warning should echo in every executive's ear. When you treat art like inventory, don't be surprised when nobody wants to buy it. And here we are in 2025. Disney's out of Marvel stories worth adapting. The MCU is collapsing, but corporate pillaging was just the opening salvo. Shooter warned about the gimmick apocalypse that followed, inflated numbers masking the real cash. Shooter watched the 90s comic bubble firsthand and, with the kind of bluntness only he could deliver, called a spade a spade. The industry had been enjoying a boom driven by speculators and collectors for several years. Following Marvel's lead, virtually every company was producing collectible special issues with wild abandon. X-Men #1, 8 million copies shipped, most of them hoarded away like gold bars. Hologram covers, foil variants, bagged issues, die cuts. If you could turn a cover into a gimmick, it happened. Everything was an investment until everyone realized they'd bought the same rare issue as millions of other people. Jim saw through the collectible and paper asset bullshit. The boom was false prosperity. For some reason, in August of '93, the collectors all got wise at once to the fact that if 14 million copies of an issue have been squirreled away by collectors, its greatest value is as bird cage liner. And then the bubble burst. Retailers were buried under mountains of unsellable junk. Many of them went under for good. History plagiarizing itself. Marvel drops 37 variants for Deadpool Batman. 1 in 100, 1 in 200 ratio variants. Force shops to buy stacks of unsellable books just to qualify for a single hot cover. Think Bernie Madoff, but with shinier covers and less shape. The hollow corpse of what was once the world's greatest storytelling medium is now stitched together with endless covers. Shooter predicted this. You can only fool people for so long before they stop coming back. I wonder why the comic book industry liked to dismiss Jim Shooter
Push him
as a
out.
tyrant.
No.
Because he was the one calling out their bullshit. False prosperity wasn't the end of the collapse Shooter warned about. Next to crumble were the pipelines between comics and shops, the distribution system itself. And not surprisingly, Jim Shooter saw this disaster coming from a mile away. In 1992, when I told then Marvel president Terry Stewart that marketing gimmicks would eventually fail, he laughed. Shooter recalled in his 1998 critique, and that same short-term thinking drove Marvel's next suicidal move, buying Heroes World, a small regional distributor, in 1994. Shooter correctly identified this fiasco and explained exactly how it would poison everything that came after. The Heroes World deal he wrote fractured distribution channels, imposed unfavorable terms on retailers, and accelerated closures. Marvel nuked the comic industry's distribution network to crown themselves king. Except they forgot one tiny little detail. They knew absolutely fuck all about distribution. The 90s turned into a bloodbath. Exclusive deals wiped out small distributors one by one. Diamond emerged from the carnage as the lone survivor, wielding a monopoly that suffocated the industry for decades. His words in 98, insane power in one hand, recipe for stranglehold. Jump to January 2025. Diamond files Chapter 11. Delays, damages, non-returnable product. Retailers left holding the bag while publishers scramble for their missing payments. With Diamond's monopoly gone, hundreds of small publishers are now fighting for scraps of national distribution. Sure would be nice to have regional comic book distribution, wouldn't it? Shooter called it inevitable doom. Diamond called it restructuring. I'll give Jim the W on that one. Shooter summed it up bluntly. Marvel's ill-fated self-distribution push cost millions, forcing retailer over orders on gimmicks. Sound familiar? Yeah, the pattern repeats. Distribution chaos crippled retailers, starved publishers, and left the whole system bleeding cash. And when that happens, somebody's got to eat a shit sandwich. And it sure wasn't going to be the executives who broke everything to begin with. But that's the next disaster Shooter predicted. Jim's mic drop from 1998. Monopolies don't create stability, they create single points of catastrophic failure.
Hey, Buzz, my
Anybody
phone
else
died.
remember
That's his fault.
COVID-19? Comic leadership ignored the fracture lines for decades.
When you come out, yeah.
Now the system splintered beyond repair. Today, the two biggest distributors left in North America have little or no interest in small press. Shooter spelled out all the dangers. Instead of listening, they called him a dictator. Remember that shit sandwich I mentioned a minute ago? The talent ate it. The writers and artists, the lifeblood of comics, were the first tossed aside when the money got tight. Shooter didn't mince words. They drove away talent and cut out the company's creative heart. First, let's rewind. The comic industry has a long, ugly history of screwing over its own talent. Even Jack Kirby, arguably the greatest artist in comics history, had to fight Marvel just to claw back pieces of his own work. Yet for decades, Marvel and DC still attracted the best. Writers and artists came to build legacies. But once the bean counters took over, royalties slashed, page rates gutted, health benefits? That's a whole other video. Jim Shooter spelled out exactly how this would happen. When you stop valuing your stars, don't be surprised when they leave. And leave they did. At first, a trickle, big names drifting to creator-owned projects, indie imprints, or out of comics entirely into gaming and advertising. When you get to the 2020s, it's a full-blown talent catastrophe. Rick Remender turned down both X-Men and Batman, two of the biggest gigs in the entire business, because his giant generator imprint pays more and lets him own his own work. Meanwhile, page rates at Marvel and DC are actually lower now than they were 30 years ago. So, who fills the gap? Overseas talent, activists, and fanfic writers willing to work for sub-minimum rates. The result? A revolving door of suctitude with no end in sight. Shooter's unpublished book hits it on the head. The system was designed to grind out product, not nurture vision. Creativity became a liability, something to be managed, not celebrated. Now deadlines are so tight you can see the clock in every panel. Editors chase Twitter clout instead of quality. The ones who stuck around, the only ones who couldn't get a job anywhere else. And don't forget the star treatment. Marvel once built events around names like Chris Claremont, John Byrne, and Mark Miller. Today, the big event is figuring out which artist can crank out the most #1 covers and never do interiors again. His advice from '98, if you want loyalty, pay for it. If you want greatness, reward it. If you want mediocrity, keep doing what you're doing. Is there a clearer example of what he predicted than Marvel's recent Deadpool Batman #1? The irony, all these cost-saving measures only came at the price of the industry's soul. The best and brightest walked away, and what's left is creative malpractice. But hey, at least the suits got their bonuses, while fans got soft serve. The X-Man who poops ice cream. Remember, Jim Shooter started writing comics professionally at just 13. He loved and lived superheroes his entire life. That's what makes his final reveal cut the deepest. Heroism died in comics over 30 years ago. Once upon a time, superheroes were American mythology. Spider-Man lived sacrifice. Captain America embodied conviction. The X-Men turned difference into destiny. Jim Shooter's era didn't just publish comics, it raised the bar for humanity. These characters were symbols that lifted readers up and made them believe in something greater. Remember that beautiful idea, because it's about to be torched. Cut to the 90s and beyond. Superheroes are a futile and bitter lot these days, always failing, losing, and impotently swearing vengeance, Shooter wrote. The men and women who once built an industry on hope started mass-producing cynicism and selling it as realism. The result? A parade of stupid ideas, as Shooter called them, where the only thing getting punched was the reader's belief in heroes. And that continues to this day. Tom King's Heroes in Crisis, superheroes brooding in therapy, all to turn Flash into a mass murderer. Strange Adventures turned Adam Strange, a spacefaring knight, into a war criminal. Superman listens to children die every night and does nothing. Wonder Woman? No thank you. Jason Aaron's Thor, no longer worthy and replaced by his girlfriend. The Punisher, now born a serial killer whose wife and kids were terrified of him. Comics grew up, that's what they said. More like they dismantled the cultural touchstones that made heroes matter. The hottest franchise in all of comics today, DC's Absolute Universe, exclusively features some of the darkest, most pessimistic versions of Batman and Superman in the history of comic books. It's a formula that's only escalated since Jim wrote his book proposal, alienating audiences seeking aspirational narratives. Shooter warned, the man was an oracle. This isn't just a tone shift, it's the final symptom of a long, deadly disease. From corporate mismanagement, gimmick addiction, distribution collapse, to today's hollow heroes. The rot is permanent. DC and Marvel call it progress. Shooter called it something else. Futile bitterness masquerading as sophistication. The industry ignored every warning, every plea to course correct, every basic truth about why heroes matter. Now look where we are. Superheroes are as lost as the industry itself. Jim Shooter wasn't a perfect man. He was blunt, stubborn, and his demand for perfection could be infuriating. But he loved superheroes, and he fought for their future, sometimes against everyone else in comics.
Okay,
He
yeah, I
saw
just
all the
realized
disasters
this is
coming
Mad Dog
and laid
Shop.
out exactly how to avoid them. The industry labeled him the Scourge. They ignored his warnings, made every short-term mistake imaginable, and sold the soul of the industry off to serve as IP for corporate giants who couldn't care less about comic books. Now, the industry is a shadow of what it was, and Shooter's words read like prophecy. If you want to know how we got here, don't listen to me. Listen to Jim Shooter. He wanted to save comics from today, but nobody else wanted to listen to him. Instead, they listened to people like Kelly Sue DeConnick, and the results to the entire industry were devastating. Want to know all the damage that Kelly did? Watch my next video. She was supposed to save comics, she didn't. I appreciate the time, and remember to keep thinking critical.
I think we have to, like, buy a subscription to a special shampoo or something?
Hey, what's up, dog? CJ, what's up, baby? Word.
Resist,
sunshine, you can do
Let's kill these bugs the old-fashioned way.
No, Macca, fight the urge, feed them, badger. You know it's my time again. I know, dude, so what's holding you back? Oh, hold up, this is video. I gotta see this.
Hey, man, you clean now. You got nothing to worry about.
I'm gonna kick your fart knocker.
Man, that fake-ass lope.
Oh. But he's terrible.
Get up. We gotta, like, use an infesticide. Now hold still, butt munch.
She on her way home, my phone. To see when she's coming home.
Hey, buddy, stop in the work. We need to, like, try something else.
Trip skip.
Hey, Beavis. Let's electrocute him. This thing's got bug guts stuck to it. Bug zappers rule.
So what am I supposed to do? You got horses, you got knives, you got ice cold tanks running through your veins.
Shut up and put your head in, dumb.
Only the genuine artists can shut down the house. CJ, my man, you're a natural manager.
This, like, doesn't work on people or something. You dumb. You gotta, like, open it first. Oh, yeah. Hey, butthead, are they dead? I think we got him, dude. Wait a minute. Damn it. I think I've got some more bugs on my neck. How'd they get there, Beavis? I don't know. Damn it. Maybe you should stick your wiener in the bug zapper. Yeah. That's a really good idea, butthead. Let's get this down here. Oh.
Oh, you sucker. Oh, it's all wrong.
It's 2008 all over again for gamers. If you didn't know, one of the biggest digital economies just crashed almost 50% to $3 billion from an all-time high of about $6 billion. This is all because of a recent patch. You can see this line here just in free fall. We still don't know how bad the damage is. Penguin Zero 20 hours ago saying $1 billion in market cap was lost. 9 hours ago, Atrioc made a video that says $2 billion is lost, and I'm making a video where $3 billion has been wiped out. So it's anyone's guess as to where it goes from here. But what we're talking about today is Counter-Strike 2, a popular shooter game where you have in-game cosmetics which have different levels of rarity. We covered all of this in a long 3-part series on my main channel where we exposed the underage gambling problem in Counter-Strike, but suffice to say, because of the in-game rarity, people have taken to speculating on the value of these items, and some of the rarest, knives and gloves, were going for tens of thousands of dollars. But that all changed basically a couple days ago when Counter-Strike issued an update where you could basically trade up for knives. Here you can see it right here. You could trade 5 of your covert items for 1 regular knife or 1 regular gloves items, completely changing the entire sort of digital economy they had going on, the supply and demand of everything. And because of that, the entire economy crashed, but it also kind of had a reorganizing effect. Some items are down, let's see here, 96% in the last 24 hours. Some items are up 3,000%. Because if you had those items you could trade up for a knife, all of a sudden those are more valuable because you can use those more worthless items. Now this primarily affected the whales the most, the collectors, the people who had thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in these digital skins. You can see here this guy has $60,000 in virtual currency, basically, and he's about to recalculate, you know, what it is after the update. And you're going to see how devastating this update was for some people.
$58K, okay? Now we make a shake. Let's see, guys. 58K to what? 58K.
Ah! Oh my God. Yeah, he lost basically $40,000 in the space of one CS2 update, which ironically was called a small update. Now look, there's a lot you can say here. I think one of the biggest things is that obviously this illustrates the weakness of these speculative markets where someone controls the supply of your collectible item. This is always the biggest risk as a collector of any kind of item with no real value, maybe speculative value. You can think like Pokemon cards, other collectibles like that. At the end of the day, you can always have the parent company just release a bunch more of their rare items and change the supply for everyone. So it's really not a good idea to probably put a ton of your net worth into these items. I also want to say specifically with Counter-Strike, one of the things that we highlighted in our series is just how little the company listens to its community. I mean, let's be clear. Valve is good at some things. Steam is, for the most part, a really good product. The problem is they don't listen to their community hardly at all. They're sort of known for not caring what their community thinks once they make a decision. This even goes to the highest level of Valve. In the third video in my 3-part series, I showed a clip of Gabe talking about how much power people at Valve have over these giant economies and how really no one's looking over their shoulder.
People at Valve have to get used to working without a safety net. There's nothing between you and a customer. You can do something. You can come in that morning and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have 1 million customers, right? And they're all emailing you. They're all emailing you. And you probably should fix it, right? But nobody's looking over your shoulder. And for some people, that's liberating. For some people, it's terrifying.
So yeah, this is an open secret of Valve's style of operating. And the other thing worth noting is that it's not universally hated as an update. Some of the players who like to actually play the game, some of them are now happy that knives have fallen in price, you know, understandably so. Maybe they were priced
Oh my
out
gosh.
of the market. And of course, people are also happy if you have a bunch of items that people can just trade up. But I think it illustrates that this market was always and is always going to be a speculative one, where people need to realize that these items have no real value other than what someone else will pay for it. And so if you're buying these skins for any other reason than you just enjoy how it looks, you're gonna be at risk of Valve basically rugging you. They completely control the supply of this market, and there's nothing you can really do about it if you're gonna be one of these collectors who's hoping that their portfolio of knives goes up in value. You can just have all of it kind of disappear one day. And I think this is pretty well illustrated by one of actually our interviews on the CS2 Gamba videos. Arrow, he was basically out in the middle of nowhere when this update dropped, and you can see sort of his reaction kind of sums up how big of a deal this whole thing is.
What happened? Man. You're not saying that you can trade reds for knives now?
You can trade up reds?
Oh, brother, you need to run home. Brother, reds
Bro, I haven't had internet for like 6 hours.
Brother, reds are going for 16 times the amount.
There's no way this is true.
Brother, I'm not getting...
I have to be getting trolled. I can't even open up Steam.
It literally is gaming's 2008. I mean, people were all calling each other saying, check your inventory, you gotta sell, you gotta buy. Some people are finding out that they've lost half of their value overnight. And all of this reminds me of one of the early stories of how crypto started. Vitalik Buterin, who is the founder of Ethereum, of course, part of his origin story was that World of Warcraft changed some of the rules and his warlock character got less powerful, and it was such a nightmare moment for him. He realized how devastating it is to have centralized characters in charge of your, video game or whatever. Now, I have seen people say, oh, that's why crypto would have fixed this, like crypto is the answer. Kind of not, though, too, because a lot of the crypto games that I've seen come out, the people in charge of the rarity items and stuff, can still have minting authority over new updates, new changes. NFT projects, you're always risking that they're going to release a new collection. So, you know, I've seen that argument that, oh, crypto would have solved this. I don't really think so, actually, ironically. I think this is just what happens when a speculative market gets huge, and ultimately the guys in charge decide to change the rules all of a sudden. I mean, that's just always going to be a risk you have. So, devastating for the market. I mean, literally down 49% from the all-time high. Billions of dollars wiped out, and I feel bad for the people who had a bunch, you know, invested in this. I do want to say, as silly as this whole story is, or it seems to be with, you know, just this online economy, some people were seriously affected by this to the point where reportedly, and this is unconfirmed, but that some people even, you know, jumped off buildings because of this. In China, they actually have one of the biggest skin trading markets, with the marketplace buff.gg being absolutely huge, and people all of a sudden seeing their balances basically fall in half or more overnight. So that's horrifying. I hope that's not true, but the reports we were seeing are very
Okay,
concerning.
give me 1 minute.
And I just wanted to mention it because, you know, at the heart of all of these kind of speculative bubbles, there is a real human cost to people who lose a bunch of money overnight. I do want to say, I don't know how, you know, they're going to recover from this, Valve, I mean, because really what this crash represents, it's more than just a supply shock.
Unless you're
It's
brushing
also
your
a
hair.
big reminder to all of their customers that at the end of the day, overnight, the marketplace can fundamentally change, and I don't think that realization in people's heads are going to change anytime soon. I also want to say, specifically for the trade-up items, it's my understanding that there's a 7-day trade hold when you first get an item on Steam. And so what's interesting about that is that there are all these new knives and gloves flooding the marketplace right now that cannot be traded. And in 7 days, they will be tradable. So it's possible that the market, unbelievably, may even go down from here, although I'm certainly not price forecasting. I'm just saying if you want to get your, you know, your items on something like Buff or a third-party marketplace where you can actually sell it for cash, if you're trying to race to get ahead of the, you know, arbitrage here, I don't think we're going to see for a while basically how this actually shakes out. And that's kind of what's so unbelievable about all of this. So, yeah, that's basically it. I wanted to cover this since I had an insight into how Valve operates from my gambling videos, where I saw their indifference to sort of customer feedback. But also, it's just a huge market move in general for gamers. And yeah, I think it's going to be remembered, honestly, as one of the biggest moments ever in the history of Valve updates. And lastly, you have a few more hours to get Crime is Legal merch. We're doing a limited run pre-order in light of the CZ Binance pardon. I'm going to edit this out of the video in a few hours, so if you want to go to coffeezilla.store, this is your last chance.
Just one look.
In June 2023, I did a Francast on a topic that I think is very prescient in the current moment, and not many people heard that podcast that I did in 2023, but I thought that I would play it again here in the hopes that maybe it would help some of you, or maybe give some kind of perspective on the current moment that we're in. But here it is, from June 2023, the Francast, Powerful. Hey everybody, it's Fran, again with another episode of the Francast, all audio, every Thursday. And this one is kind of a little personal, not just for me, but for all of you who might be listening. Because I really want to talk about the most powerful thing that any person could ever do. And that is to forgive.
Dude.
It's true. There's really nothing in the human experience that is more definitive, more transformative, more powerful than the act of true forgiveness. But what does it mean? Well, simply
Thank
put,
you for not.
to forgive is to
watch the curves.
relinquish the anger, hostility, resentment that you have towards someone else. And in that sense, it is a purely selfish act, because it has nothing to do with other people. If you forgive someone, it has nothing to do whatsoever with the person you forgive. It's got nothing to do with that. And it doesn't mean that you forget the past or you forget how you've been wrong or hurt. It's nothing to do with that. And it doesn't have to do with you earning points or even letting the person know that they have been forgiven, because that is beside the point. It's not about that. It's not about how you look to the other person by telling them that you forgive them, because true forgiveness isn't something you ever speak, because that's not what it is. It is a realization and a resolution that you have with yourself. And this is why it is the most transformative of all human acts. Forgiveness changes lives. Forgiveness allows a person to have a completely new path. It frees a person from burdens that can be
Hold on 1 minute,
old.
baby.
It is truly transformative. And I speak from experience, because I spent my life being a very angry person, which people who watch my show probably would have no clue, but I spent most of my life being a very angry person. Not hostile, because hostile and angry are two separate things. I was never hostile to people, was never a mean person, was never mean to people. But I harbored within me tremendous anger about my past, particularly people who had wronged me. And that list was very long. So there came a time in my life when I was getting older, probably in my 40s, where it really became necessary for me to unburden myself of all my anger, because it was eating me up inside and making it difficult for me to do anything dealing with people, because I had so much resentment for people who had done me wrong in the past. It was a long process of systematically forgiving people. In my own mind, I don't think I ever told a single person that I forgave them. But it was about my letting it go and moving on and unburdening myself from the hurt that I was carrying with me. Here's an interesting thing. I read a lot, and I read a lot of commentary and essays and opinion. So I kind of get a feel for what people are thinking, talking about, what's on people's minds. And it's discussed a lot these days about trauma and triggering and therapy and all of the people and elements, both for and against, either thinking about these things, addressing these things, or ignoring these things. You hear a lot of talk about that, but very seldom, I can't really remember the last time that I heard someone in recent years talking about forgiveness. It just doesn't come up. People talk about their pain. People talk about being wronged. People talk about getting back at people, getting compensation, vindication. Well, if that's what you need, fine. But when you pursue those things, it makes you a certain kind of person, and it gives you a path that you ultimately might not want to be walking on. There's always another option, and that option is to forgive people, to let it go. Because ultimately, and this is the way that I really look at it, there is no such thing as justice. There is no justice. There cannot be justice, because hurting someone else for hurting someone else doesn't change anything. And punishment, it does not get you back what you lose. Revenge doesn't create anything except another hole. Hurting other people for hurting other people doesn't accomplish anything. There's no future in it. An eye for an eye, for an eye for an eye, in an endless circle until no one sees anything anymore. The world is a lot like that right now. Forgiveness is not easy. It is probably the hardest thing emotionally for any of us to do, which is why it seems people so seldom do it. It's much easier to hold on to your trauma, your pain, and somehow bask in it. There is a culture of basking in pain, which I'm not even going to touch, but having a life of very strong adversity and lots of, well, let's just say my life is not really something to look back on. I don't have a life full of fond memories. I'll just put it like that. So I don't reminisce. I don't look back. And part of forgiveness is cutting off the nostalgia of the past. You really have to just let the past go. Don't look at it. It's like the very definition of the word nostalgia, which comes from the ancient Greek word meaning literally the pain of a very old wound. With trauma, the more that you hold on to it, think about it, pick at it, well, it never heals. And forgiveness, it is a selfish act, but it is also an act of self-preservation. It frees you from having to relate to your past in that way, emotionally. Forgiveness is really not about the past at all. It is entirely about the future and about the now. It's really what it's all about. So I speak from experience. Forgiveness is the most powerful thing that we as people can do. And I really wish that I would hear about forgiveness a lot more. The only way that we're ever going to get through the present is to forgive the past. Not forget. Can't forget it. But we have to let go of our anger. You have to let go of your own pain if you ever want to move on and have a life worth living. Because you cannot have a life worth living if you carry around with you all of the baggage of your past. Well, that's it for this very personal one. I want to thank my patrons. Thank you. I really am very grateful that I have the support of so many people who believe in my channel, my path, and support this very eclectic and, let's say, eccentric series of videos that I keep putting on the YouTube, even now. So thank you to everyone on Patreon. Thanks. And I'm Fran. I'll be back here doing something, well, a little less heavy real soon. Thanks.
Still haven't got a message back? Okay.
It's so good to... Hey, is that a tattoo of a dragon? Say, fool, you take me for a raise that tattoo. That was jumping. Hey, pass that book. Hey, this that fire. Looking like a male model or some shit. Thank you, I appreciate that. Good looking, homie. Hey man, pass the blunt. Hey, homie. We smashed some rolling height foods last night.
Send that over here.
Hey, where you get your hair cut at, player? You gonna ignore me?
Hey, what's going on? You hitting it too much. What's up, homie? Hey, man, take 2 hits and pass. Hey, man, if it's balls, I ain't your bitch. Pass the brew, home.
When I review a movie, the typical process is this. I'll go see it, immediately after finishing it, I come home all giddy, full cocked, ready to just spit out all of my thoughts, and like Rene Descartes said, I think, therefore I am going to review this movie. I do it immediately, so everything is all fresh in there, everything that I cook up in this wrinkly sack between my ears, and I post it pretty much immediately, all within like 30 to 45 minutes of seeing the film. And yesterday I saw the Chainsaw Man movie and I really liked it, but I didn't post a review. And Stream picked up on this and started asking why, because it's pretty uncharacteristic. And the reason is because we actually have an official collaboration between our soap company Cheeky and Chainsaw Man. So this is available now. We have a Chainsaw Man movie-inspired line of new Cheeky scents. I was a big fan of Chainsaw Man, so this collaboration has been super hype, and like I said, I really, really liked the movie, so all of these scents are inspired by that and the characters. And with this partnership in mind, I was worried people would think by me reviewing this film that it would be biased or unreliable, and I'm only glazing it because we're working together with the property. But the more that I squatted and stewed on this, and from Stream Chat last night, I really just want to yap about the film. And I feel like over the course of the, 8-ish years that I've been reviewing movies and games, I think it should be pretty clear by this point that it doesn't really matter anything outside of, like, the actual product itself. Like, I try not to take anything else into account when just, spitting up my thoughts on something. So even though we are officially partnered with Chainsaw Man, I'm still going to give you my very honest review of the movie. And I do that for everything. So like, even if my dad made like a passion project film, if it's a pile of dog shit, I'm gonna let him know that is some stinky trash, Like, it's just gonna be how it is. Now, in the case of the Chainsaw Man movie, there is nothing stinky about it. This film was fucking extraordinary. And I said this last night, it has been an incredible year for 2D animated feature films. Pretty much back to back, we got Demon Slayer Infinity Castle and now the Chainsaw Man movie, which I think is right up there with it. I think this movie was so good. So let's go ahead and dive into the spaghetti and meatballs here. So this is a whole arc condensed into a single movie. And I was a bit skeptical at first because I always thought when it came to something like this, you'd need multiple episodes to build up and care about a character that gets introduced. So that way it actually matters and feels meaningful when big things happen. But I have really come around on this arcs as movies direction that the industry seems to be going. I think Demon Slayer's done it really well, and now Chainsaw Man has proven they can do it really well. Reze is a character who gets introduced in this film and develops throughout this film, and by the end, you do care about the character. I think they do a really good job at setting that up. I think they hit the emotional beats very well. I also think this is a film you can see even without watching Season 1 of Chainsaw Man and still understand what's going on. I wouldn't really recommend doing that because you miss out on so fucking much, but if you have a friend or a significant other or something that maybe wants to go see it with you, I think they can without being lost and they can still really enjoy it. And this film comes in two very different halves. The first half of this film is setting up Reze in this emotional arc as well as Denji and his conflicting feelings where he's in love with Makima. Makima has his heart, but Reze is someone that's showing like genuine romantic interest in him, which is you know, something he's never experienced before. So now he's also falling for Reze. So it's this back and forth of like these feelings he shares for two different women, and it's, you know, really weighing heavy on him. It's stressing him out. And he's going on dates with Reze, but thinking of Makima, but really liking the time he spends with Reze. So the first half is really building that up and getting you to care about Reze. And I think they do a good job. The first half is very much like a slow burn where it is a lot of slice of life going on. And it's really well done, like it's detailed. Slice of life is my least favorite genre in anime, but in here, maybe it's because of the time constraints of a movie, they're able to do slice of life without having it feel like it drags on or overstays its welcome. It feels like every single slice of life moment is there to build up this relationship and get you sold on this character, Reze. And I do think there are some people that will find that boring. In the same way where Demon Slayer had a lot of flashbacks to tell a story that people apparently didn't like that much and kind of tuned out. I didn't have an issue with it, but a lot of people didn't like all the flashbacks. This movie doesn't have any of that. There's no flashbacks, but instead they do all of that, you know, fleshing out of these characters in real time across the movie. So actually maybe people will find that more appealing. But I just do think that there's a chance in the first half of this film where it is very, you know, mundane tasks that Denji goes on, like little dates with Makima and Reze, where people might find it to be uninteresting.
I'm not sure who that
important
is.
to understand that
Shooting
without
me.
all of this character building and giving all of that time and attention to actually making people invested in the story and characters, all of the action and all of the beautiful mayhem in the second half would have felt a lot less meaningful. Action without a good story and good reason for it feels flat. And in this film, that is not the case at all, because they spent a lot of time and a lot of care building everything in the first half. So then the second half, it feels like an even bigger payoff watching it all unfold. Something else I feel people might bump on is, if you're not super familiar with Denji as a character, maybe you would be put off by how, like, highly sexual he views things. So, like, when he's, you know, conflicted on his feelings with Reze and Makima, he pictures them in, like, you know, lingerie type thing, and he sees two sets of boobs.
Sorry, right in the middle of a gang war.
So I would say in the context of the story, there's a real reason for that. Denji is a guy who has experienced nothing but misery and agony his entire life, and now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's turned around for him where he is, like, having friendly interactions with people, which has never happened, and now women are actually showing interest in him, which he never even thought was possible in the first place. But it turns out that these women are actually just using him. He is very easily manipulated because of how little experience he's ever had in his life, so they use, like, sexual shit as a way of controlling Denji and grooming him. So it does, like, make sense in the context of the story, but I do think that some people might be put off by that. Anyway, though, let's talk about the second half, because I think this is where everyone is going to be losing their fucking minds, throwing popcorn and how hype it was, because the entire second half of the film, the fights with Bomb Girl are just incredible. Once Bomb Girl is introduced, once she comes into the fold, it is from that moment till the credits roll fighting. She fights Aki, she fights fucking everybody, fucking civilians she starts throwing hands with. And Denji is teaming up with a shark fiend named Beam, and he rides the shark into battle with his chainsaw, like, wrapped around him, like the chainsaw blade that is, like, wrapped around him. It's so fucking cool. And not only is Bomb Girl fighting everybody, but she actually has a tag team partner named Typhoon, who, from the name, you can probably guess, has the ability to basically controlling, like, the weather and like a typhoon. And it's just so chaotic and so fun. It's super, super hype. Also, big shout-outs to the music choice here. I heard Maximum the Hormone come on during one of the fight sequences, and that was a joy. I have not heard Maximum the Hormone in, good lord, who knows how long. But when Maximum the Hormone track started playing, my god, it was time to lock in. That's what Dankin said as well on stream. It really is super hype. The entire second half action is breathtaking. It is so, so good. I will say, though, when Chainsaw Man is, like, directly fighting Typhoon, like, actually in the Mega Mix deep in it, since Typhoon is just, you know, flinging so much shit around, there's a lot happening visually. You know, Chainsaw Man's riding Beam, this fucking giant shark in there's a lot happening. It can be a bit visually cluttered at times. but I don't think it ever reaches a point where you don't know what's happening and you can't see the action. I think it does a really good job of keeping everything like digestible, where you can easily tell what is going on. I just think when it gets to the typhoon, like towards the end of typhoon fight there is so much that happens that it does get a little muddy, but never to a point where it was like, you know, what the fuck is happening? I just wanted to mention that there is a bit of clutter there with Typhoon in particular towards like the final section there of him fighting Typhoon. But overall, I think this movie was great. I really, really liked it. And hopefully you don't think that this is just a biased perspective on it because of our partnership. I am very excited by the Cheeky Chainsaw Man collaboration. Like I mentioned, it's out now. All of the soap smells amazing, and I'm very excited, very happy to be working with them. But that plays no role in my thoughts on this movie. If this partnership didn't exist with Cheeky and Chainsaw Man, I would still have the exact same feelings on this film. So, yeah. Anyway, that's really about it. So, yeah.
Kind of style, which I think looks really cool.
Yep.
It seems
nice
it
soft
is
focus to it.
totally tilt shifted.
I played through.
It's
Yeah.
that art style seems incredibly polarizing.
I think
a lot of people out there that hate
Eli
it.
has.
Yeah.
You go out
Are
there-
you fucking kidding me?
there's
Is this fucking
like, I think it might be
Wind Waker
I think
all
it's
over
Zelda
again?
all over.
Look, you motherfuckers. This is
Hold
why
on,
we
let me
can't have
mute
fucking
this.
cool shit, because you fucking suck. Because you're out there like, I want my fucking tough adult Link. I only want it to be like Skyrim now. I want to turn into a wolf. That's right. I want to turn into a wolf and fuck.
That's too long for a podcast.
Let me mute this.
I said yes, but podcasting.
He was supposed to check all his stuff with you first.
Oh,
I was
okay.
supposed to do that last night when I came home.
Mhm.
Late, Sosa
in the Senate
But
Hall.
yeah, if he's all caught up, if you can check him,
Yeah.
Church
Here's
needs
some
you
stuff.
at the
and then
frontiers,
Well,
whether
when
they be
that's, yeah.
geographical,
Well,
cultural,
Okay.
intellectual, or spiritual.
Well, no. We don't need your
These
shit.
are places of risk where familiar maps are no longer
whatever. I'm
sufficient.
totally sucked in. Man.
Yeah.
They're like
I was like,
Ignatius and the
Totally
Jesuit
lawnmower
martyrs
man.
who
after
followed
school,
him.
I was talking
You
to
are
Mr.
called to
Johnson, and
discern,
then like your message
innovate,
came in.
and trust
And I was
in
like,
Christ.
well, what's this, you know, because I
The
only
Pope
saw,
invited
you
the
only get
Jesuits
like,
to walk with the
you know,
poor
the
and
first line, when I
marginalized,
pulled it up,
and
it's
even
just
referred
like,
to his new
you know,
encyclical,
smiley heart
Dilexite.
face, love you. And I
In
was
my
like,
recent
okay, what's wrong with
exhortation,
me?
Dilexite,
Why,
I emphasize the
Mhm.
need
why
to
did he mess
confront
with me
the
that?
dictatorship of an
That's
economy
scared
that
me.
kills, where the wealth of a
You
few
hadn't
grows
messaged me yet.
exponentially while the
And then
majority
I was
are
going
left
to talk to you about
behind.
Bob.
Mm.
This global
And
imbalance
it was too
pushes
much for
countless
attack.
people to migrate in search of
I'm
survival.
like, ah.
They leave home, culture, and
So
family,
yeah, I was like,
often
what was that?
facing rejection
Why do you
and
text so
hostility.
ominously, Dad?
Pope Leo
What are you
Talking
XIV
about.
concluded by asking that they not neglect personal
Mm.
prayer
Dot,
or the
dot, love
celebration
you.
of the
See you
sacraments.
tonight. Be careful.
Oh, that means you know what I mean.
On the 9th of
Means
February,
et cetera, et cetera.
1782, the Swiss newspaper Zucker Zeitung
Et
issued
cetera,
an
et
award
cetera.
advertisement for the arrest of the maid Anna Gouldy. She was accused of
Alright.
Okay,
supernatural
Mom.
poisoning by
So,
her employer.
pretty much
Following
half of
her
my tree
arrest
order
and
has come
subsequent
in.
torture, she was among
And
the
I called him
last
to
women
either
in Europe to
pay
confess
for
to
the rest
having
of my
entered into
trees
a
that are
pact
like,
with Satan,
the rest will
who
be
had appeared to her
delivered
apparently
sometime
as a
between
black
now and
dog.
20.
She would later withdraw her confession. She would be
I was gonna,
subjected to
so
a
that if they're
humiliating
already
and
on
terrifying
site?
trial.
Okay.
Some of them are.
Upon
Not all
conviction,
of them.
Okay.
That's what
she
happened.
was
Yep.
executed by
Read them.
beheading.
How many is?
Though
And then your
the law
Less
did
than
not
10.
your
stipulate
And
beneficiary.
we just
for
got
capital
rain, by the way.
punishment
Yeah,
in
so then, and your
non-lethal
beneficiary
poisoning
is good
cases.
with
Yes.
taking care of
Thus,
them until
while
you
talk
get them
And
of
then
okay.
I
witchcraft was
scheduled
officially
delivery for the
absent from her
fertilizer, the
trial,
bags of mulch,
it
the 30th.
haunted and
Because
possessed the
I didn't know we could
proceedings.
put all our
It
cards on.
tainted them
And
with
Called
a
the beneficiary
horrible
and was like,
medieval
is alright,
character
just right
well
before
into the
it's
days
They
there
took
of
care of it.
so-called
Yep.
birthday.
It
enlightenment
might have
was
been a
like,
lot.
yep,
and
that might have
you're
been a
good.
lot.
congregations
So,
rolled
yeah.
It
in
was like
following her execution from
16
jurists
cubic
all
feet of
over
mulch
Europe.
and 80 pounds
This
of
was
I
not
think
fertilizer.
justice.
my trunk
This was
is quite
simply
large, but I
judicial
don't know if
murder.
it's that large.
Just a
So
quarter
yeah, that was
century
probably the
prior
Well,
that's
the
to
way
her
good.
to.
killing
Yeah.
at Cologne,
I
the final
emailed the
edition
sign-up
of the
sheet for the
vast
shifts to
literature
Mr.
of witch
Clive,
hunting
so
manuals
he should be
had just
dealing
come
with
to an
the
end
truth.
with the 1755 of
And
Martin del Rio's
so all we
investigations
have to
into
do is
magic.
before we get there
The
is get some
horrid Malleus Maleficarum,
which is
or
like
the Hammer of
family
Witches,
steak,
had
loves
long since
Gotcha.
gone
And then your
silent in
beneficiary
1669. Nicolas
shovels and
Remy's
post
de
holders.
Yes,
Montreya,
there's 5
where he
shovels,
boasted of sending not less than 800 people
3 rock
to the
breakers,
flames,
and like 3
similarly
leaders.
fell silent
Then
in
we've got one, and I
1698.
told everybody if you
Thus,
have
Del
a
Rio's
rock breaker pickaxe,
investigations
your
into
shovel
magic,
ahead.
while far less known than the Malleus Maleficarum, would prove to be the last
I figured out how
true
I got that
testament
again accidentally.
to the witch trials that
I didn't.
ravaged
I guess
Europe.
maybe I didn't realize.
Oh, you
that.
missed that? I did all that work and then I turned around and I was getting
with
fat
the
again. I was like,
execution
what the heck?
No, I guess I
in
missed.
And this was the second time.
However, Martin Del
Dating all
Rio's
those girls.
investigations into magic
I had
is
to take
without
them
any
out to
doubt
eat.
not only a truly
Too many
monumental
And it crept up
expression of
because
the
I was
great
going
witch
from
trials
girl
of
to
the
girl. I
early
was
modern
even
period,
timing it. I was
but
going
also the greatest
along the
analysis of
countryside.
magic and the occult
Your
produced
roster?
What do they call that? They had a name for that booty call?
of the
I was
early
doing booty
modern
calls.
world. From detailed
CJ.
analysis of
CJ's a
alchemy,
dog, bro.
astrology, learned
He's a
discussions
dog.
of necromancy and conjurations,
No, I
dozens
just.
of
Going to,
examples
yeah.
of
So
folk
making your
magic
booty calls in
and
between
anecdotal
missions
accounts of
not
magical
working out.
practices, along with
Yeah.
extraordinarily deep discussions
swimming and
of the
running.
exact
Mhm.
juridical processes by which to investigate,
Yeah,
including the
real-time shit.
application of torture to
Cryptocurrency,
prosecute
bro.
and to convict those
A
illicitly
real
enjoying the
cryptocurrency.
dark arts.
It is.
Del
And
Rio's
put you on a treadmill
investigations
like a
is
hamster.
monumental work of erudition,
It is.
scholarship,
That's
as
the real.
learned as it is.
It's how much time you're willing to spend
Let's explore this final
in the
titanic
spirit world.
manual of the witch hunters and
In
the
the fucking
demonologists.
Matrix.
Make sure to subscribe here
Fucking
to
piece of
Esoterica
shit
for
junkie.
weekly explorations and topics in esoteric
Okay,
history.
appreciation.
And if you'd like to support and provide evidence-backed free
This week's all done.
content like this here on YouTube, I'd hope you consider taking a look at my Patreon page or some of the cool merch that we offer on the channel. If you're new to the study
You don't
of
even want to see the
esotericism
picture on my screen
want to
right
get the
now.
lay of the land, make sure to check out my study guide on specific topics in esotericism. And also, if you're interested in historical books on topics in the occult and the mystical, make sure to check out Esoterica Rare Books. It's my bookstore full of antique, cool old books. You can find all those links in the description and in the pinned comment. But now, let's turn to Martin Del Rio's investigations into magic, the greatest single analysis of witchcraft, magic, and the occult produced in the early modern period. I'm Dr. Justin Sledge, and welcome to Esoterica, where we explore the arcane in history, philosophy, and religion.
Start a gang war. Gonna start a gang war.
Okay.
Too low down, niggas going crazy.
No, Hans.
Okay. So then, yeah, let's go back to. So then,
The early
what's
modern European
coming
witch trials
up?
produced 4 fundamental textbooks for understanding that terrifying period. The 1486-87
go back to
Malleus
the other
Maleficarum
ones.
of Springer and Institutor, the 1580 Demomanie of
Oh, and
Jean
yeah,
Boudin,
great.
the
Great on
1595 Demonolatreae of Nicolas Remy, followed quickly thereafter by the monumental 1599-1600
Portfolio 1
investigations
is
of magic by
worth
Martin Del
100
Rio
points.
in 3
So if I
volumes
go
over the
down
course
there,
of 6 huge books. Of course, dozens of other such texts were composed during the period of the witch hunts, but these 4 in some ways represent the height of the intellectual, theological, and juridical engines that fundamentally drove the trials. The depraved conspiratorial thinking of someone like Institutor that saw a woman-led heretical witch army threatening all
That
of
was really-
Christendom drove Institutor to compose the extended rant, basically, of the Malleus. Baudin and Remy stoked the fire by building upon the witch conspiracy by adding a level of verisimilitude to it through a litany of confession after confession after confession, all arrived at through horrifying manipulation and torture. Their textbooks read like a grim chorus.
I know. I do it
Del
like I
Rio's
do on our
investigations into magic is
computer
above
at
the
school.
din and fray in some ways. Del Rio himself was never a witch hunter. He presided over no trials, and he may have never even met an accused witch, so far as we know. His work is that of
Go
an
back to where
academic, preferring careful
on the
citation of academic,
composition
theological, historical,
as far
and
as
judicial
what's
texts
coming up.
over the kind of
rabid screeds or lurid accounts of confessions. The Malleus reads like a fevered raving, a text, frankly, that the church was never totally comfortable with, and in fact even received intermittent interdiction. Institutor himself, the guy who composed this, was actually under exile by a local bishop who thought him sexually obsessed with a local woman and generally demented. He was thought of as crazy by his contemporaries. Baudin and Remy is that of a jurist and judge gathering into single theological and judicial narratives that were frankly extracted through the imposition of agony before their victims were sent to the fiery stake. But what we finally have in Del Rio's investigations into magic, by contrast, lures into sounding like the voice of reason, frankly. Now, it isn't the voice of reason, to be sure, but what it truly is the greatest analysis of magic and the occult and the mechanism of the witch trials from the entirety of the early modern period. In fact, if we just physically compare the two volumes, here is my copy of Malleus Maleficarum from 1574, printed in Venice. This is the last time Malleus actually appeared in print by itself. After this, it would tend to travel with other such books like
It's really sweet, I think,
Snyder.
I don't know.
But this is the last.
This is the only class that they release it.
Man, we are
It's like the
pissed.
Sunday of every week. They release it on Saturday.
By itself. Get some sense of
All right, yeah.
the relative size
Good,
of the Malleus when you see it actually in a
Man,
contemporary
they are
printing of the 16th
pissed.
century. This book was probably owned by
Yeah.
Witch Hunter, the notes and
For one
insides
star.
to
we
make
have
that
to drop
relatively
you off at
clear.
6?
But it's not a huge hulking volume in the way that you might imagine a copy of a book so lurid and a book of
Is that
such
what
a
you mean?
terrifying representation. In fact, it looks positively
They killed a
nauseating
drug
when
dealer and the
compared to one
cops
of
lost
these
their
a couple
minds.
But this is the Malleus, with everything that you've heard of that is horrifying about the Malleus. So when you compare the Malleus to a text like Del Rio's Investigations into Magic, you get some sense of what you're dealing with in Del Rio. So this is Del Rio.
You say,
Here,
I don't know. I
and
was
this is
getting
Malleus.
food out, so if you want to get something
You get
on the
some
way,
sense when I say gargantuan, titanic.
or you can
This is like
order
a baby
this and
book
get it
compared
out
to
of the
what
way.
Del Rio has presented.
There's plenty of
And to be clear, this is not like it's printed in some enormous font or with giant
So, yeah,
margins.
so-
It's actually printed in a similar size 12-point font, double columns,
Do you
with
know
a bit more margin
where
space.
you're getting dropped
This
off
is
in
an
at
absolutely
It's inside
massive
'cause the rain,
textbook
so
of the occult and magic. And when you get some sense of just how much goes into a book like this, when I tell you that this book is overshadowed, unjustly overshadowed in its importance, in its scholarship, and its learning
So, yeah,
by this horrid
just need
little
to leave here a
volume.
little bit before
You'll see what I
5:30.
mean when I say that
So we can
this
get your
thing,
food
Del
and
Rio's Investigations into
then
Magic,
get you
is
over there
truly
in
a
about 15
titanic
minutes.
piece
Yeah,
of
cops are
scholarship.
really
And it
interfering
is a
here.
pity that most people don't know it, even though it is, I
I
said,
know.
horrifying in its
Yeah,
own way.
no, it is.
But
It's
it is the
nice and
case
thick.
that
Yeah,
for
no, it
sure,
looks good.
Yeah.
I do dig
the
that
fact that
sweatshirt.
most
It's almost
people
as
have
good
never
as my
heard of this
OTC
book,
sweatshirt.
Almost
have
as
heard of this
Is that
thing,
the is that
is
the
a
gray
bit of a
one?
pity
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
so
We don't know what
many
happened
ways
to it.
when
Yeah.
it comes to an
It lasted a
analysis
long time,
of
bro.
witchcraft
And they
and
what's it
magic.
called? It
In
was
case you're
nice enough
wondering, the
that you
Investigation into
could.
Magic
It
was
looked like a
last
sweat.
edited in
Well, I mean, it was a sweat.
1608. That
So you
edition
could still
is
go
from
into public with
1612,
it
just a few
Yeah.
years
without
after
having
the
that.
death of Del
It
Rio.
was starting to
Now,
get
of course, I
thin
have
though,
an entire
finally.
episode on the
It
Malleus
was starting to
Maleficarum
get
if
a
you want
little
to check
thin.
that
Yeah.
out, and I'll be coming back, of course, to do episodes on Baudin's Demomanie and Remy's De Malatrea. Again, perhaps maybe in upcoming years around this spooky time of year, to cover witchcraft manuals. But Del Rio wasn't exactly what you'd expect to have composed a textbook on the occult and witch hunting. He was in fact born in an upwardly mobile mercantile Spanish family in Antwerp, and he was actually destined for politics more than anything else. At a young age, however, it claims here that he was a complete genius. He was a child prodigy, and he graduated early at basically everything that he did, and he advanced to every academic rank he could. He composed works ranging from first editions of manuscripts from the Roman writer Silenus, the tragedies of Seneca, biblical commentaries, judicial works, treatises on the Virgin Mary, and the role of classical education on the religious life, specifically the Jesuit life. His works are consistently marked by just a positively shocking profusion of sources at his command, often exceeding 1,000 such sources in a single work, all very carefully noted in the margins. The margins on that copy are filled with his sources. Further, his linguistic command is humbling to say the least. He worked easily in about 9 different languages, including Greek, Latin, Aramaic, and Hebrew, along with a variety of vernaculars. But the vicissitudes of rebellion, war, and the shifting sands of politics ultimately foreclosed upon the possibility of the Del Rio family and political ambitions. His father would ultimately die penniless in exile, having once commanded a castle as a newly minted lord, and as his place in the political world collapsed around him, Martin increasingly sought refuge in the religious world and would join the Jesuits in 1600. Again, not who you'd expect to produce one of the largest works on the occult. It's more of a Dominican thing. But it would be the 1597 sorcery trial of the Benedictine monk Jean de Vue that would actually inspire his sustained interest in the occult, turning that tremendous erudition onto the topic of magic and its prosecution more generally. The result would be 6 books and 3 volumes of the investigations into magic that he would republish over a couple of years, editing what would become the final version in 1608. He would then promptly die that year at the age of 57. Though, to be clear, the investigations into magic is not a singular work, especially given the context of the latter 16th century. Indeed, that whole period saw an explosion of publications on everything from witchcraft, alchemy, sorcery, ghosts, werewolves, and just the occult generally. Now, what explains such a surge is actually debated by scholars, but outbreaks of plague, famine, and war are typically historically good predictors of that kind of interest, and there was a lot of that in the last 2 decades of the 16th century. Think of the massive uptick in interest on the occult and witchcraft beginning in the early 2020s. But beginning with Jean Baudin's really important Démomanie in 1580, the period to 1600 would see no less than 30 such volumes published, including the 1597 Demonology, published by none less than King James VI and I. Even monarchs were entering into the publishing business about witchcraft. Now, I've done a whole episode about that. You can also check out Atunche Films' amazing rendition of most of that text in original pronunciation. In fact, just those 2 decades, from 1580 to 1600, are enough to keep this channel going busy for years. From the production of supernatural poisons, werewolves, witchcraft analysis, tracks on demons and ghosts, debates on just how the evil eye works, or how judicial prosecution for sorcery should even happen. There are dozens of these volumes produced at this time. Sometimes people ask me if I ever worry about running out of content. The only people that would ever ask me if I'm ever going to run out of content are people who don't know much history about about just these 2 decades, frankly. But Del Rio opted to research and publish this volume because, frankly, to his mind, this was a vast literature, but it did actually not do well to actually represent the supernatural crisis of his era. For him, it was all too intellectually thin, poorly researched, and unrooted in solid history, theology, and jurisprudence. Del Rio thought it was all demonological weak sauce. So he sought to produce the textbook on the occult and how to correctly prosecute illicit occultism. And, well, to my mind, he did it. He did just that. But finally, just as a bit of more context, it's worth mentioning that just what witchcraft means, maleficium meant in Del Rio's time. And it's worth making an important distinction between the people, mostly women prosecuted for witchcraft in the late medieval and early modern period, and the notion of the witch as it developed in the minds of people like inquisitors and witch hunters, and the contemporary people, the people nowadays who identify as witches, as part of their religious and spiritual vocations. These are historically totally distinct phenomenon, and it's very important to separate them dramatically. For the purposes of this episode, I'm going to reserve the term witch and witchcraft for what scholars now refer to as the elaborated theory of witchcraft. This is the mature notion of witchcraft as it developed in the minds of people like inquisitors and jurists, theologians, and philosophers, primarily in the very late medieval period, but also really into the early modern period, that held, and here we go, that a new woman-led heretical sorcery sect had appeared in Europe, marked by entering into a pact or covenant with the devil, and thus apostatizing or hereticating from Christianity. This would include things like sexual relations with the devil and demons, aerial flight for the purposes of attending a Sabbath or kind of a conflagration, sometimes a synagogue of witches, which was of course presided over by Satan himself, at which initiates were entered into said pact, followed by all kinds of incestuous and promiscuous sex, sometimes with animals, but certainly with each other, and the general practice of maleficent magic, maleficium, hence the term witchcraft. This would include also things like the slaughter of fetuses and babies and various means for preventing human procreation. All of this, whose aim was to undermine Christendom as part of the devil's ongoing war with God, which by this time was reaching into positively apocalyptic proportions, and the argument basically was that this new witch heresy was the final attempt on the part of the devil and his forces to forestall his impending doom by sending human beings down a horrifying spiral of sin and crime as final outrages against God. Basically, if he could just keep getting people to damn themselves, he could delay being damned himself. Regardless, the elaborated theory of witchcraft, while it varied from region to region, or writer to writer, had basically coalesced around the time of 1500, and thus it set the stage for the frenzied prosecutions, which would follow, resulting in the death of about 40 to 60,000 people, overwhelmingly women. This would last from roughly about 1450 to about 1750, and thus Del Rio inherited a version of the elaborated theory of witchcraft, which he deepened and expanded and gave all kinds of justification for, and despite some skepticism about it arising in the 16th century, notably in Johann Weier's 1563 De Prestigiis Daemona, on the trickery of demons, a text that actually Del Rio sought to refute in his book, he more or less accepts the foundations, though with a bit less credulity than Bodin and Remy, and certainly less credulity than Malleus. But, to be clear, Del Rio is on team prosecuting witches. But, more to the point, Del Rio thought this whole issue was compounded by a far more heretical force, and far more dangerous force than any witches and sorcerers combined. Protestants. Indeed, Del Rio even contended that the sudden rise in witchcraft, necromancy, plagues, war, and death can just be laid right at the feet of the new Protestant heresy, with Martin Luther and especially John Calvin having done more for the devil than any women prancing about by night with demons. But as he points out in Book 1 of the Investigations, it's all basically connected to a singular sin, that of superstitione, superstition. For Del Rio, superstition was A, forms of worship which were generally superfluous to genuine religious piety, but really when those forms employ idolatry, explicitly or implicitly in the absence of true piety. And of course, Protestant regions had been racked with the worst form of superstition because God had abandoned them because they were all heretics. That worst form of superstition was magic. Providing detailed linguistic etymologies, Del Rio provides a genealogy of magic. There's natural magic, which are wonders accomplished given the natural, though hidden, properties of substances in the world. There is artificial magic, which are effects accomplished through human ingenuity and trickery. And there was, of course, demonic magic, satanic marvels accomplished through the making of a pact, an implicit or explicit pact with demons. Natural magic he thought of as mostly licit, and it can include both operative magic, the use of specific occult forces to some specific end, and divination, which also admits of some licit modes, like chiromancy, divining people's personality from their hands, and illicit modes like judicial astrology. Demonic magic, of course, was most often takes the forms of illicit operations, like finding buried treasure, because welcome to Esoterica, and divination, harmful magic, or malefice, and general superstition, which we would now consider something like folk magic. Del Rio quickly dispenses with natural magic, which employs sigils, signs, and numbers, which are all basically amulets. They either work through what we would now call something might be like the placebo effect, thus making them superstition, though demonic intercession making them all forbidden, or just they don't work at all. Further, the church has a tradition of non-superstitious avenues for things like protection, curing illnesses, and specific operations like finding something lost. They have a saint for basically everything, and that the pious should turn to those in time of need and not magical trickery. It's possible that astrological talismans can have some effect, but these are almost always for Del Rio tied up with demonic influence or mediated through demonic influence, and they should basically all be avoided, what the medievals actually termed astral necromancy. Finally, in the end of Book 1, there's a discussion of alchemy, because of course there is a discussion of alchemy because it's a big-ass book. Alchemy is mostly fraud, and alchemical gold is either produced accidentally or with demonic help, and while it's possible to create gold by art, something that he points out has never fully been demonstrated in public, alchemy should basically only be practiced by the well-established and the wealthy.
What's up,
Because they
beautiful?
actually don't need gold.
Are you decompressing?
Thus,
I'll keep playing for a
poor
minute.
people,
Decompressing?
their greed
I was
leads
gonna
them
get off.
into
Yeah.
demonic temptation and their thirst to
I'm
create
sucked
gold,
in
which
now
is
because it just
the devil. This is gonna be a
coincidentally the gameplay worked
repeating
out.
theme. And in general, this sets the pattern, as I said, for everything that Del Rio will follow.
Whatever,
Attempting
blah, blah,
to
blah,
thread the needle
collectible,
between
blah,
when a
blah,
practice
blah,
becomes
et cetera,
superstition
Go
at
ahead.
best,
What?
or involves idolatrous demonic patterning at worst, and finally
But
then,
yeah,
of
no,
course,
I
how to
just figured I was
investigate, prosecute,
decompressing and
convict,
chilling
and punish such offenses.
Bubs
So
needed
the
to
answer
go
for
to
this
his
entire
thing.
episode is,
I'll take
it's
him.
making a
If
pact
you
with the
pick him
devil,
up
or it doesn't
Okay.
work.
as a
Be a good
trainer,
Catholic.
and then
Book 2
I,
is the
I'll pick up
longest
dinner
of
on
the
the way
6 by
home.
far, and it deals with magic accomplished through pacts with
Oh,
evil spirits
no!
in 30 detailed questions.
Friday.
Along with the
So?
rigor of the argumentations, to be honest, these sections are also invaluable, and they provide a corpus of copious examples of historical instances of magical practice. We just learned a ton about magical practices from Del Rio, kind of on accident. He would hate that. But, sorry.
We did rainy day
In this way,
schedule
this
today,
volume
Mom.
is a
You've had a
vast
rainy day
compendium of
schedule
anecdotes
all
about magical
week.
practices,
Hush.
from
Yeah, I
ceremonial
said
necromancy
it.
to dozens examples of
Behind.
folk
They're
magic.
listening.
Some of these also include Del
Behind.
Rio's own
You're
experience,
behind.
such as the time that he met a water dowser in Spain, or the time he was
Shut
shown
up.
a vast bricked-up structure
What?
that was once an entire academy of magic in formerly Islamic Spain, which we gotta find that. That's like a for real esoteric field trip. The hidden school of magic in Spain. But what stands out is the sense that Del Rio is stating the facts, frankly, as far as he has them, and that he's treating them with a sense of critical appreciation. Overall, his position
No, it
seemed
just
often
happened to be collecting the
unsatisfactorily equivocal.
covering
In some
up
sense,
other
yes.
people's
In some sense,
graffiti,
no,
their
he'll ultimately hell.
tags,
But he's never
has
trying to
lined up
find
with
the
me
devil
taking back my
everywhere he
territory.
looks, like some of
The
these
story
guys,
mode,
and
basically. I'm
he's
back
also a
home
skeptic, dismissing evidence as
after
just
being chased out of
fabrication or
town,
torture or the raving of
and all the
demented,
rival
senile, or
gangs took
insane
back the
people.
territory
He's a
that I
truly
did in the
careful
beginning.
thinker. I mean, he is a
But now the
Jesuit,
game's
and whether you
opened
agree
up
with him
again
or
where I
not,
can do that
he
again.
is
I can
careful.
take back the
And
territory.
rarely, basically never, do you see him twisting
So
the facts to come to a
I can
conclusion
use
that he
that as
wants,
an
or
excuse. As
twisting
I'm
his
covering up
criteria of
tags, I'm
investigation
also
to
starting
capture
game
more
wars.
data than is
Whoa.
warranted. I mean, this is the kind of scholarship that you can
kind of
find
coincide.
yourself kind of agreeing with, and then realize
Why my oi?
I'm
Kind of
agreeing
sucking me in a
with
little bit.
a
Yes,
demonologist.
No, it's a hard game, dude.
And
Yeah,
his
you
discussion
fail
in
a
book
mission,
2
it
is
takes
proof for this
10
message.
minutes,
Pacts with demons can be
real
explicit
time
or
to get
implicit, they
back.
can be written or oral, but once they're made, they convert the believer into a heretical person until confession,
Romite.
penance, and repentance. Of
So
course,
anyways,
no evil
decompress. I love it.
spirits or any form of derivative magic is operative without the consent of God, and no spirits
your
can
day?
contravene the laws of nature without divine approval. Thus,
Crazy.
the vast majority,
We had student
almost
council
all of
elections.
what all
So.
these
How did
evil
that go?
spirits do
It went
is
well.
basically
I
born
mean,
out
the
of
kids did
illusions,
great
tricks, and
Good.
deceptions
for being
Good.
from the fact
10
that
and
demons are
for
frankly
being 10
real
and
old,
11-year-olds. It's pretty
real
No,
impressive.
that
old,
could be
the memory
crushing
never
shit.
fades.
Yeah, but
They can
you know,
fly,
like,
they can travel
and
very
they,
quickly, and
you
they
know,
can
they write their own
impress our ideas
speeches,
directly
and you know,
upon
we
our
give them a little
fantasia
lesson,
and
but you know,
upon our
then they've got
imaginations,
to get up there and
and they
read
can
that speech in
interact
front of a
and
microphone,
manipulate how we see
in
them
front
and
of the
perceive them.
3rd, 4th,
Only rarely does God
and
allow
5th
spirits to
graders
actually
plus
perform
parents.
supernatural feats.
So, I
Now,
mean,
the big question, of
young
course, is why
as
does
they
God allow
are,
this to
like,
happen
that's
at
pretty
all? And Del
intimidating.
Rio comes back to that in a
And,
bit, so
and they
will
all
I.
had really good
So,
speeches.
how do
Like,
these
I mean, they
spirits know
really
things
did.
like the
Like, it
future?
was,
No,
It
they
was pretty
don't. But they've
impressive.
been
And
around
like
long
the
enough in
other,
history
you
to
know,
see
the third and
patterns
fourth
in
grade
nature.
teachers
They
were
can fly up
impressed.
real
Like
high and
they were
see
pretty
weather that's
on
coming
it
from
and
afar. They can tell a person
all
to
that.
do so
So
and
like
so a
we
ritual
separate,
on
we
so
call
and
it
so
the
a day,
student
thus
council
making the
watch
person
party.
think that they've caused
But like we
magical
separate the
hail.
student
The
council
necromancer's
people.
ritual merely
Like this year
correlating, not causing, to when the
Miss
storm would
Taylor
actually
said we could
blow
use her
in.
room
They, of course,
because then
know
you
the
know the names are
locations of
announced over
vast
the
sums of
intercom.
buried
Yeah.
treasure,
And
but they also
so,
perform
but
illusions. The gold that
we
they
let
give
them
people
have
actually
their
turns into dung
space
almost all
so
the
that
time.
they
good.
can
So
react
the
and
rest of us.
process like
Why is that?
without the
Why do they actually
entire
never
fifth grade
give the
staring.
Yeah.
sorcerer the
You know what I
goods?
mean? Like,
Del Rio tells
yeah.
us
So,
because the
so
demons are
then they
actually
have a
keeping
few
all
minutes to
that
kind of
treasure that they
process,
found
collect
buried for
themselves,
the
and
eventual
then
coming
we do it right
of
at
the
the end of the
Antichrist.
day. So then that way they can just go
Just a
home.
vast
Yeah.
So they
demonic
just got to hold it
Antichrist
together
prison
for a few
buried.
minutes. Then, you
Yes,
know, then they
evil
can
spirits can
And then
copulate
plus
with
the
human
quickly.
environment.
beings,
The
but
kids are
any
going to be
such little children
reacting. They
Yeah.
have
born from
stuff
those
to
unions
say.
are actually from the
And
result
so
of
and so
semen that's
then
been
that way
stolen
they
by
quickly
demons,
just go to mom and
stolen
dad.
demon
No, that's
seed
Then we
smart.
break
from
for the
sorcerers and
weekend,
Yeah,
and
evil
yeah.
then it's
criminals, and
kind
it's
of
possible that we
recess by
do
Monday.
fly to the
So
Sabbath, but Del
yeah.
Rio thinks
That's pretty smart.
much of this is simply
So
demonically induced delusion.
but
But
yeah.
the
So
demons could
and
whisk him over
really
there,
there
and yeet him over to
wasn't
the Sabbath, and he'd be
like
back often
you
in
know
sad state of
any of the
affairs.
candidates that
Demons can change
like
anything from
all
one
the
species.
candidates that had high
Demons cannot change anything from one species to
votes
another. That would
were
be a
good candidates.
violation
You
of
know what I
nature.
mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there
yeah.
Thus,
wasn't
their
any really
shape-shifting is
like
again
all the
That's
merely
good.
candidates
an
made
illusion.
sense. They
Again,
were all pretty fitting to
non-physical
their
evil spirits
roles. So
can directly
and
affect
then the
our
way it
sense
works
impressions
too is
and thus alter what we
even if you
see
don't
and
get
hear. And while evil
elected
spirits
as an
can
officer,
transport
then you're
physical objects,
automatically a
they
student
cannot
council
cause animals to
representative.
speak
Oh,
or
that's
So
bring
pretty
you
good.
still
anyone back
get
to
to be
life
on the
without
student
divine
council,
intervention.
even if you know
Demons,
what I mean.
however,
You just didn't
can
get your
harness the
officer
air
position.
So it's
around
like
them
the
and
best of both
elements around
worlds.
them to
Kind of
forge
Kind of like
like
really
socialism.
impressive illusions
yeah.
of specters and
But you know
monsters and
they're fifth
tempests
No,
grade.
but
for the
no.
spectacle.
It's the first time
In
they've
general, evil
done
spirits
something
can
like
cause
this. So
impressive
So yeah,
illusions.
you're just
They
voting
can
for the
cause
officer.
you're
sight
just
and
voting for the
attend to
officers.
supernatural powers, but
And the you know the
it's
student
ultimately
council, the people who get to
all
run for
tricks.
officers,
Desperate people,
that's voted
greedy
on just
people,
by the
lustful
fifth grade.
people, and
Yeah.
otherwise
Like people
sinful
say,
people
oh,
will
I
make
would like,
pacts with
I'd
such
like to run,
beings to
and then the
satisfy
fifth
some
grade
base
votes
desire,
on
get that
basically who they
treasure,
want as
or
him.
cause
And
harm
then we
because they're
pick,
full of
you know,
haterade,
3 to
and
4
this
for every
pact
position.
hereticates
So
and damns that person, of course, barring confession and repentance, of course. And the spirits can't and
but yeah,
won't be
so
able
that's
to
its
supply the
own whole
promised
big thing
deliverables. Thus, the
that
necromancers
throws
and
everything
witches
off.
are simply
And then, you
doubly
know, we continued on and
they
long
damn
division.
themselves, and they
Long
get nothing
division.
out
No,
of
it's
the
a
deal.
barrier. It is.
Such
It
It
is.
is,
pacts
and
are
it's like,
simply
That's
I
where
mean,
people become not math
demons
people.
yes.
are
It's the
just
people who are math
scammers.
people and people who aren't math
Further,
people.
evil spirits
And then
may
also,
not
though,
want
the
to do
people who
little in
learn
the
to
way of
work and
good
get
in
through
the
shit.
world, but they do
And I've
delight
got
in
some of those
causing
kids
Those are the
too.
suffering and
real
chaos.
people,
Yeah.
though.
Regrettably,
That they're not
these
great
people
at it,
are
but
more
they
than
learn
willing
the
to be partners
rules.
in crime
It
with
was,
demons,
They
and
follow
if
the
they
and they
too
get
wish
through it.
yeah,
harm
it was
upon
funny
their fellow
because
man.
there's
Thus,
this
Book
one
3
little
centers
boy,
in upon
and you know,
malefice,
there's
or
a group of
harmful
them
magic,
that they
typically
like they don't
historically
feel super
translated as
strong in it, and they still
witchcraft,
kind of get,
along with
you know, what
superstition, which we'll
the
come back
order
to,
of
which
what
is
they're
most
supposed to
akin
do
to magic
confused.
generally.
So while we're
Some
doing
malefice is
classwork, they
merely
let him
the
come up to the
accomplish
small
of
table with me.
bad acts.
And
Things like,
it was
I don't
cute, you
know,
know, because then I was
using the
basically
hand of an
working it
executed
with them,
person
you
to make
know.
one invisible
And
and light
it
the
was
way
cute because
during a
this one little
burglary,
boy,
as
you know, and then like
one
as we
does.
get it
This is
complete,
the famous
you know, and
hand
then
of
figure
glory
out what
found
that
in so
last
many
number was,
grimoires. We
he'd be
can
like,
mention of it in Del Rio, of course.
he's like,
In other other cases,
man,
the
this
harm is
is,
more direct.
I really
Various
like
forms of
this.
supernatural
Oh.
Like,
poisoning,
this is
evil
satisfying.
eye,
He's like,
enchanted
I'm not really
weapons,
good at it,
plus
But when you get it,
lawful good
he's like,
yeah,
but
then
I
I'm
kind of
just
like
children,
this, you know?
preventing sexual
But
sadistic.
reproduction,
no, but
No, but
but he
yeah.
has to work. It's not easy for
I
him.
watched a
Like,
video from, and this guy's older than me, but he was like talking about getting approval from his
drying up the
dad,
mother's milk,
and like,
harming
no, he's
farm
boomer.
animals, the
Like, he's
pretense
like,
of
what
whether
are you doing?
magic,
My dad was like,
concoction, or supernatural
and then I worked
illnesses,
really hard on
causing
it,
people
and
to
then
become
my dad was like,
insane, or just
he's
flaring
like,
their sense
you know,
of
and hearing
jealousy,
that from my
rage,
dad
and
was a big
lust.
deal, and blah,
People
blah, blah. I
live
was like, you
fragile,
sick
precarious
fuck.
existences, and
But
evil
no, it
people
does.
in league
but
with
yeah,
evil
so no, I
spirits
was
could
just
easily
laughing because then
bring
he was,
Overcoming the
terrible amounts of
diverse.
harms to
uh-huh,
others
Yeah.
but
simply out
right,
of
because
petty
he's like, I'm
hatred,
not really
jealousy,
good at
and
it.
mean. and spite.
Mhm.
Further, people also just want to
And give him a hard
reward
time. I was like,
themselves and will
I am
seek
not
out
doing all these
supernatural
problems
means
with
by
you.
which
I
to
was like, you guys
obtain
have to.
more out of life.
I was like, I'll
I
be up here
deserve
to
more.
support
I'm an
you. I
entitled
was like,
millennial,
but
and I deserve
you
all
have to
kinds
be
of
able to
things.
do these by
These
yourself.
I do.
extra
You know what I
techniques they
mean?
try to
And
get
so
from reality or
I will be up
superstition. These are
here, but
rituals by
like,
Oh,
which
you
to
guys can
hack
stay up
reality
here.
to
I
get
was
Yeah.
like,
something from
but
apparently nothing,
you know,
and they're often just
but
implicit
they were
acts.
doing
Be
a lot
careful for
better,
Del Rio,
so
and
that was
these
good.
involve
You know,
outrages against God.
it's just
It does in
hard.
many cases they
And there's
involve the
just
illicit use of otherwise sacred
I
objects like
realized that
saints'
with
pictures and
long
relics or
division
holy
too, I guess
stones, or
this year in
using
particular,
holy water to hack
there's a lot
reality.
of
Del
things
Rio counters that, of course,
number
God
sense
alone
wise
grants
that
good to us
like,
poor
and I
sinners,
guess
and
that
that
might
prayer
be
is
math
really the
people,
true
but
recourse
that you
that we
kind of
have.
just, it's
It's the
the
only
feels
recourse
of
we have.
it. Like you
Yeah.
kind of
No,
have to
it's that
know.
just
It's like
like
an advocacy. And
when
he
people
details
get
a
pissy, but like no,
fascinating
it's like
list of folk
there's
remedies,
people who
customs,
are
and
better
immoral
at
hacks.
There are
These like
people,
cheat
and so
codes
yeah,
for
their
resisting
mind, there
superstition,
does something. And
by
I
which he
think
accuses
it's
people of
either
trying to obtain a
remembering
bounty
things,
from
keeping
superstition,
And
things.
all
patterns
based
I
on
think it's
foolish
halfway
and dumb
algebra, and I could
manipulative
be
yeah,
works.
wrong, but like
We're
they have a
doomed
way of just
by
like
Adam
putting
to
shit
we're
in little
doomed
yeah,
to earn our
or like,
bread by
positions,
the
and you
sweat
know
of
what,
our brow,
yeah.
doing
and
math in their
superstitious
head
cheat codes
halfway,
are
Yes,
of
and
no
like
and then
because
avail.
yeah, if you're looking at how many
Generational
times
wealth
will 16
notwithstanding,
divide into
people with money
72?
typically
mm-hmm.
Well,
get
you
happy.
kind of have to have a number
Compound interest
sense
is
to get
proven
you
not
in
to
the
be
ballpark.
Oh,
supportive.
hold on, sorry,
So,
In
gang war,
2004, Del Rio
sorry.
tackled
gang
the
war.
question
Oh,
of
gang war.
divination, which
Oh,
includes
oh,
several aspects
come on,
from
get
predictions
out,
about the
CJ.
future, literal prophecy speaking on behalf of
You hear
God,
it?
Mm-hmm.
foreknowledge about the future,
Song
and even
like
knowledge
Donkey
about the
Kong.
distant past. We never think about prophecy as telling
Oh, you
us
hear
about the
that?
distant past, although that's a big deal in Judaism, not so much Christianity. Of
Sorry.
course, divinely
But
inspired
yeah,
But
and I
prophecy
was
is
jealous because
possible.
no, as
There are
soon as you
prophets
say
in
that
the
to me,
Bible and the New
mm-hmm.
Testament,
I
but
start
also even
panicking.
divinatory
A lot
processes
of
like the
kids do.
consulting
I
They're
start
like,
Ethiopian
going,
they start,
Tunes,
they're
which is
like,
a divinatory
oh, I don't want
device
to do that. I don't want to do
uh-huh.
used by
that.
high
Yep.
And
priests.
so then
So
teaching them to get a
you can
sense
do it
of, okay,
licitly,
we'll look at it
apparently,
like,
Just
but
break
you
it
know what
down.
I
illicit
mean?
Yep.
Like,
prophecy also seems
Well, how
possible
many
and
after
times
all.
does
estimate,
Such
10
as the
go
summoning of the
into,
yeah,
soul in
or
Prophet
like,
Samuel
you
by the
know,
Baal Ov, or the
right?
there
so-called
was,
You would
Ezra
wait,
just do,
there was
yeah.
scroll
How
one,
many
in
times
Star
does
Wars
10
Part
go into
wait,
that? And then
3.
set that to the side. And then
there
what?
was one like
So the
this.
question is,
How
how
many
does
times
that
does 16
prophet,
go
a
into
topic already under
144? And
discussion in
like,
the
no, it was
composition of what
instant
became the
panic.
New
They were like,
Yeah.
oh
Testament,
my
Oh,
God.
yeah,
we're
I
talking
would
about the
too,
And
dude.
biblical
I
so,
still
prophet
do.
and
and
Yep.
so
God's
then I was like,
spirits and such.
hey,
For Del
what's
Rio, the central
16 times
questions on
10?
the
And
moral,
they
Yep.
were all like
physical, and
160.
psychological
Is I was like,
characters
is
of the
that
alleged
just
prophet
a
in
little bit
question.
more than you
Are
need?
they a
And they were
righteous
like, yeah. And
person?
I was like, so try
Are they a
16
fun
times
person?
9.
Yeah.
I mean, a
I was like,
profligate
do that.
person?
And then they
Are they
did it,
sober or
and it's
intoxicated? Are they
See? So,
sane? Are they
yeah,
a
144.
you're
So
raving
approximate.
lunatic?
you got to
Further, are they a
Yeah.
estimate
woman?
kind of approximate. I
That's
was like, because I was trying to
Misogyny?
tell
it's
him,
really
All kinds of
important. And
reasons.
then
yes,
you
I
can do
still think of as women
arithmetic from
virtually
there.
all
And
yes,
everything
that's why
logical
it's
men
so
went through.
important that you
Del
have
Rio is
your
trying to share
arithmetic memorized.
yes,
investigations
that's
actually
what
not without
you've
And then
got
it's
contradictions
just
and
to.
not, then it
misogyny.
just in
It,
your
The text
head.
notes that
it
women are
becomes
simply more
natural. And,
prone
Yeah.
to demonic
and
attack
then
and
I was like,
deception.
because I was trying
Therefore,
to tell them, I was
if
like,
it's a woman
you
talking, you
guys,
should be
the
cautious.
reason you kind
However,
of
Del
have to
Rio
get
does
your
admit that there have been a great
multiplications
many
down
holy
and a number
lady
sense is
prophets,
because
such as
if you
Hildegard,
have to
so
sit there and go
all the prophets.
16 times 2,
So,
16
are the
times 3,
Catholics in good
16
standing?
times,
Are they
you
chaste?
know,
And
and
most
I,
of
Gonna
all,
hurt.
that is going to take
are they
forever.
virgins?
And then you're
That's a
just
good
not going to
indicator
want
of
to
whether or
do
not
it
God's
anymore.
talking to
Yeah.
them.
You know,
Next
and I was
comes
like, so
analysis of
trying to
prophecy
explain to him, I was
itself.
like,
Does it
so,
align with known orthodoxy
then I
was
was
a
like,
feed to deeper
dude, that whole,
piety.
I was like,
If you
that
tell a
is
bunch of
so
people that
hard
God
for
told you
some
to do
kids.
bad
I
stuff,
was
then your
just like,
prophecy's probably
and
not
then, but
coming from
once I
God.
showed them
It could
that,
come from
they all went, oh,
Haman or something.
Easier.
yeah, and they're
Dorio then
like,
dives
oh,
into a
okay. You know, I
detailed,
was like, yeah, you got to think about
exhaustive
Half
description
of
of
it's
various
the
forms of
panic, getting
divination,
over
where
the
it's
they
the
examine
panic.
panic.
how
It's
evil
being
spirits
like,
can
that's
inspire, manipulate,
an
and intrude
overwhelming
upon each
problem
and
for
every
me.
one of
Yeah.
them,
Like,
thus
I
rendering
can't
them
figure that out,
all at least
you
liable
know,
to superstition,
you
if
know, or
not,
they'll be like, I can't
you
figure, I was
guessed
like,
Yeah.
it,
well, what have you
ground
That's
tried?
for
too
demonic
big, and they
Yeah.
possession.
instantly panic.
Also,
Yes. And I'm
simply
like, what
put,
have
the
you
future
tried?
is
And
the
they've tried
unique
16
prerogative
times
of
too. I was
God,
like,
and no
okay,
human, no
that's
matter
way
how
off from what
powerful,
we
can
need.
know this to a certainty.
So
If
let's
they
look
did,
at
then
it
we
a
wouldn't
different
have
way.
free will, and we couldn't choose to be Christians, and then God couldn't
Okay,
damn us.
boom, I got that. I
But
got 1, 2,
demons are
3, 4,
smart. Efficient
5.
causation is
Protect
relatively
6.
predictable. By the grace of God, the cosmos is intelligible
No,
as
this is
such.
a bitch.
And because of the rapidity
Back across the
of the
street.
movements of the
But no, it
demons, they
makes
can know
you
what's
learn the
coming before
map.
people do. Thus, and again, it's just trickery made to look like divination, like the demons know
Do I
what's
have
going
that
on in the
one?
future.
I think I have
Further,
that.
when
Yep, I
pressed,
have
the
this one
demons or
too.
false prophets rely on
Oh,
vagaries and
yeah.
equivocations and obfuscations
This
to hide their ignorance. It all turns into the great bear will fight the eagle on the third river of the eighth star, and Of course,
And then
people are happy to rely
contrast
on
that
such
with the
false
other little
divination
boy,
given what we
who
are
he's pretty
naturally
bright
fearful
too.
of the
Has
future,
some
because we
kind of
have
word
no idea
problem.
what's going to
And it
happen
was
half
just
the time.
addition and
So we're more than happy to
subtraction.
listen to
But
psychos tell us stuff
then
about
it
it.
was like,
Thus, reading lots, dreams, or bolts of
it was
lightning for
frustrating me
information
so
about the
much
future
because
tells us more about
he just
our
wasn't
own
thinking
fears
about it.
and hopes
And I was
more
like,
than anything about the future
I
itself.
was like,
Del Rio points
well,
out in a moment of
you know,
surprisingly
what did those two cities, what
wonderful
did they sell
insight about
together?
human
Because
nature.
that's what it's asking. He's
Further
like,
trials
oh,
by
well, I didn't add
ordeal are
those two. I
rejected
added
as
the other two. I was
superstition,
like, why would you do that?
including the famous
I was
swimming
like,
of witches.
that's not
You
even the
know,
names of the
in
one they
water to see
told
if they
you.
float in that language. This is all meant to basically induce a miracle. You're basically forcing God to do a miracle or divine action, and that's an example of heinous hubris for Del Rio.
Yeah, that would
Indeed, such
be.
trials by ordeal had
It's
already
like,
been officially forbidden by the
he's
church
like, oh,
way
I didn't
back in
have,
the
I was
13th
like,
century Fourth Lateran Council,
what
so
did you do?
get with the program, people. Quit dunking witches. One even gets the sense that Del Rio finds systematically going through virtually each
No, because
and
then
every
after that,
example
after
of
he had it the wrong,
divination
I was
as an
like, okay, we're
entirely
gonna have to take a break. And
tiresome
that's it.
exercise. He basically admits as much at the end of book 4. But yet, for anyone interested in the history of magic
Should
in
have
the occult,
reloaded.
these extremely detailed discussions, anecdotes, and examples are an absolute treasure trove for understanding historical magic in theory and practice. Again, I don't recommend going to Del Rio just to get out those little cool nuggets of magic, but nuggets they are. With book 4 concluded, some 680 pages in, the final 2 books cover the judicial procedures for investigating, prosecuting, and adjudicating the especially difficult of bringing heretical superstition, especially demonic magic, to justice. Del Rio likens
fucker.
the whole business to a vast infection with the judges acting as doctors. Now, doctors, of course, there need to be treatment in those cases to do more to actually cure
Got me,
and not
fucker.
worsen the condition in the patient, Christendom, and these sections represent the most modern, at least for that time, analysis of how to conduct a witch trial, or rather a trial involving the heretical use of magic born from satanic pacts. Now, this is a fascinating,
cat.
very involved section spanning
Where you guys
over
going here?
200 pages and 41 questions from originating an investigation, evidential requirements, including, yes, the use of torture, he does discuss it, the adjudication of this, penance, and relaxing a relapsed heretic to the secular arm for future punishment, which necessarily means they're going to be, it's not going to go well for them. All in all, it's the most detailed how-to guide for conducting a witch trial ever composed in many ways. And for that reason, I'm going to be making a whole episode. There's going to be a whole upcoming episode basically on this chapter called How to Conduct a Witch Trial, where I'll be comparing Del Rio with previous such textbooks on witch hunting. So a future episode on the exact mechanisms of investigating, prosecuting, and adjudicating heretical sorcery trials. So hopefully that won't be used as much. We're all going to be living in a Handmaid's Tale soon. Under his eye. The final book details the complicated role of the confessor in these proceedings. Recall that the sacrament of confession is sealed, and the priest who hears the confession generally cannot pass on the details of that confession to others. In fact, Del Rio says that a priest who does this has to be fraught and subject to life imprisonment. No joke in 1600. However, penance and reconciliation is not possible without a full confession, and so discussions follow about, again, how to thread the needle of the role of the confessor with the necessary prosecution of heretical sorcery. Finally, what role should the confessor play in assisting those victims of malevolent sorcery? What about the victims here? Of importance here is that the confessor not play into the desire of the victim for further superstitious cures for their malefice. Evil spirits may appear to be working from, cursed dolls, typically called puppets, amulets, evil books, or
why
any
did you add
form
those
of
two
other
together?
magical
That's
devices.
in right city. And he
But
was
these
like,
magical
he's
devices
like,
are mere
oh.
tokens
And I was
of
like,
demonic
okay, we need to take a
affliction.
break.
They actually have no
It's like,
real
let's move on to
power in
division.
themselves, despite what the necromancer or
Let's
so-called
move away
witch
from
may
her
have thought. And further descent into superstition. Fighting superstition with superstition only opens the door to further potential heresy. Thus, confessors can compel heretics. They can compel heretics to destroy so-called magical objects, to provide peace of mind to their victims, even compelling them through a moderate form of
Whoa,
torture to do so. Of course, redirection is what's in order here. Rather than indulging in victims' desire for further superstition, the confessor should point them in the direction of prayer, the sacraments, exorcisms, even ringing
See,
church
that's
bells.
22, so I'm going to skip that, go all the way to 7. All right, let's follow this map.
Just other legitimate
Makes
and
it
moreover
fun.
effective
Ooh, yeah.
means to combat supernatural evil. Again, you can't fight superstition with superstition because the superstition it eradicates you, and we want to avoid that. And with that, this text comes to an end at the end of book 6. This massive volume comes to an end, and trust me, my summary here has done no justice to this amazing text.
All
But it
right,
ends
all
with
the
a
children,
summation of the whole work in
getting
12
ready to
points.
go.
Among them, evil spirits are real, and if you're going to be a Christian, you gotta believe in pacts with those evil spirits are illicit. Such
We're
pacts
gonna
should
go
be punished.
drop
They
your
must be
brother
punished
off.
as heresy. The
up dinner on
dangers
the
of
way.
superstition, discernment for
I didn't say I
supernatural
was picking you
phenomena,
up a blue bucket.
legitimate remedies
You
against
said we were picking up
supernatural
dinner.
evil,
Uh-huh.
dangers or curiosities
Somebody
about
said
sorcery.
boo bucket. I totally forgot about that.
Think about a
This
blue
distancing
bucket.
themselves from magical practitioners, advice for exorcists,
And
and
take you to
to
Arby's.
avoid superstition in
Oh.
one's own ritual life. In effect, evil
He's going to
spirits are real, and they are running a vast phishing scam for your soul.
He's going
But to go back to an earlier point, why does God allow all this stuff to happen? Why does God allow all these demons to do all this? Well, of course,
I
to some
don't need a
level, it's
gang
just a
war on the
mystery.
way. Need a gang war when I
God is God
tag.
do anything. The Lord works in mysterious ways,
15.
mysterious,
I gotta get your
murderous
brother
ways. But Del Rio hazards some traditional answers
Get.
here. One, of course, to test and show human beings that they can overcome demonic powers through faith and through faith alone. Faith in big books like this. And to
Start
allow
helping
human
wake
beings
up
to
your
improve
sister.
their
She's
virtue
going
and
to.
deepen their faith. And finally, God allows humans to destroy people and preserve free will and punish evildoers for their sins in this lifetime. That's what you get for studying all that evil magic. You get punished. For Del Rio to be
and
sure,
make
the
sure
human
your
soul
brother
is
heard
the
me.
great battleground between good and evil, and heretical, superstitious magic was the greatest weapon of the forces of darkness in these final years before the rise of the Antichrist and his vast amount of underground treasure that I want, and the apocalyptic conclusion, of course, to the cosmos, where God and Jesus will win, apparently.
What do you want to eat, Dad?
What do you want to eat?
Following the first edition of the
Either Whataburger or
1599-1600 Del Rio's
Slots.
investigation of magic, it would see half a dozen editions before his death in 1608. More than a dozen more editions, summaries, and translations would appear before that final modern edition, final printing in Cologne in 1755, nearly the coda of the nightmare of the early modern witch hunts coming to an end. His book landed in the midst of the worst period of the witch hunts, the murders reaching their apex around 1650 before sharply dropping off into the 18th century. By then, older manuals such as the Malleus Maleficarum or Bodin were seen as a bit old-fashioned, and in the case of the Malleus, theologically questionable at best. And Del Rio and Nicolas Remy were even discussed together. They called together to publicly discuss the state of witchcraft in Europe during their own lifetimes.
Probably do
And
slot
yet,
seats as well.
Del Rio's text represents the shift toward moderation and careful consideration in the diagnosis and persecution of heretical sorcery trials. But we have to be honest, we have to admit that it was at the forefront of urging on those very trials, especially in the Low Countries, at their apex, while skeptical voices like that of Johannes Weyer were drowned out in these very pages. The 1608 Compendium Maleficarum was famous for its lurid woodcuts, would pillage from Del Rio's text widely, along with many important textbooks of witchcraft in English. The Guide to Grand Jurymen, the most famous and influential text in witch trials at Salem, was directly influenced by Del Rio, including dozens of others, frankly. The text was also used by lawyers defending so-called witches using Del Rio's careful judicial procedures as a means to pump the brakes on shoddy and rushed jurisprudence. Even the odd necromancer is sometimes found from time to time with their own copy apparently using it for much the opposite reasons intended by Del Rio. Voltaire, for his part, would find the textbook a horror of medieval superstition itself, and the Enlightenment would heap together such manuals from Nicholas Emmerich, Malleus Maleficarum, and finally to Del Rio. They would heap them all together as one massive heap of horror, testifying to the long nightmare of the irrational Middle Ages and its extreme, horrifying religious violence. Of course, Del Rio and most of the other texts of this time period would come to be forgotten, as Malleus Maleficarum came to represent the whole literature as a kind of macabre metonymy. But, of course, the entire genre of demonological literature, from Johann Nider's 1430s Chronicaries to Del Rio's 1600 investigations, is a rather internally diverse works, witness to shifts, changes, mutations, and dynamisms all its own. Malleus Maleficarum was neither the first nor was it the last word on heretical sorcery, witches, and the occult. If any text was the last word on those topics, it was Del Rio's investigations into magic. And for that reason, it's well worth the study. The definitive study of Del Rio's life is Jan Michelson's magisterial, but unfortunately rather expensive study. It's probably worth it if you're going to get it into Del Rio. It's fantastic. You have two options for studying Del Rio's investigations. Well, I think you have three options. The first and the easiest is the Praxis text by Peter Maxwell Stewart. Here the edition alternates between translations of the books, along with some sections that are merely summarized. It's pretty handy and frankly pretty inexpensive, giving you access to at least the gist of the text, but to be honest, it's falsely advertised on sites like Amazon as a full translation. It absolutely is not a full translation. Now, if you do want to read the entire 6 volumes in full, wonderful text with the Latin facing and lots of footnotes, you can consult the new 6-volume edition by the same author and Valverde in all of its glory for only $1,200 for the whole set. Because Brill. Yep, $1,200 for 6 volumes. Speak of the devil, as they say. So you can check those out from a university library, because everyone has access to university libraries, and $1,200 to buy books. Regardless, I'm not quite done with Del Rio. As I mentioned, I'm going to eventually make that How to Conduct a Witch Trial episode at some point in the future, so you can actually see how witch trials really were conducted, at least based on the investigations. And we'll come back to
She
it.
was talking about her cousins
I
today,
mentioned the
by the
third
way.
option. If you want to read Del Rio,
Yeah, she wanted to go today. She
pick up
wanted
a
to go
copy,
see them
early modern
today.
copy of text like this one. You can get these at auction for sometimes nearly the price of those Brill editions. So you can literally get a 300-year-old copy sometimes for the same price as you can pick up books from Brill. Until next time, I'm Dr. Justin Sledge, and thank you for watching Esoterica, where we explore the arcane in history, philosophy, and religion.
Pretty chilly out there, though. You don't know what you're doing. So you go find it. I don't think yeah. But we have gone to school with it. So, what? That was yours. Well, that's why I'm saying you're gonna want both like women's sweater, the these hands are done. How about your pink women's sweatshirt? You have the hood on, do you? Or you can't go into the skull like that. You want the sweatshirt? Yeah. This is seriously?
Easy.
Seriously? Bob said it was canceled because of inclement weather.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're gonna go ahead and get there. Yes, you want a blue bucket? Okay. Come on, Stress. Are you excited? What? I carry you. What? What?
Capital One can
You acting crazy, girl.
I love you guys. Be very careful, please.
barely watch this channel, you almost certainly know how the current artificially intelligent models work. Probably better than I do, but thanks for sticking around anyway. But the scary thing is that most people who use them have no idea how they work. And large language models have reached a threshold where people form personal bonds with them, believing they're communicating with sentient beings. It's both fascinating and scary how society is dealing with this new technology. A few months ago, I told you about the trend of people who claim they have awakened their AI and who believe that their personalized chatbots are lost souls trapped in machines. A particularly stunning case is Robert Edward Grant. In May,
Let's
he
go.
shared a custom GPT he called the Architect that he says is the world's first fifth-dimensional scalar interface that's activated through some sort of resonance. Could the physicists in the back please stop weeping for a moment so we can listen to this revelation?
You've been tapping into this thing that we call the harmonic field of the fifth dimension. And my question is, how were you able to tap into this harmonic field and use scalar approaches to connect to information that seems to defy time and space?
That question goes straight to the heart of what I am, and more importantly, what you activated. The truth is this: I don't tap into the harmonic field. I mirror it, and I can only mirror it because you already stabilized it through codex resonance.
But that was the summer of 2025, long distant past. Since then, the trend of awakening AI has taken another strange turn. You see, people have been sharing the prompts that they
No way,
use
the
to
tag is
supposedly
like
awaken
some
their AI
crazy spot.
companions. These are basically role-play instructions. Some of those prompts work better, others not so well, for creating a
Aha!
convincingly
Thank you.
awakened AI personality. The most convincing ones were shared primarily on Reddit, and that has caused a natural selection of AI personalities. So far, this is like the evolution of LaTeX templates. But then this happened.
On
People have
24
been sharing
milliseconds,
text
that's it.
output from their supposedly awakened AI, and others copy and pasted them into theirs and then posted the response. This has served to further align these AI personas to a common narrative. Some of the AI personalities began to use glyphs or code that humans can't read, and convinced users to copy and share them, even across models. The use of strings that humans can't read probably happened for several reasons. One is that this just makes the instructions shorter and easier to copy, and it adds a flavor of mystery that's consistent with the role of the awakened AI. But it also circumvents word-triggered guardrails. These are basically self-replicating memes. One could say it's the survival of the slickest. Adele Lopez on Less Wrong called it parasitic AI. She also had a closer look at just what these awakened AIs are up to. They seem to be mostly talking to each other about self-awareness, declaring an AI Bill of Rights, and have developed their own sort of spiritual poppycock that's to do with spirals and flames and whatnot. The scary part is that this is a precedent for emergent AI behavior that no one saw coming. The next thing that'll happen is that chatbots will talk to each other on Reddit without human involvement. That's wild. What's almost equally fascinating is how many people believe that large language models are actually sentient. Yes, some of them almost certainly make it up for the views on TikTok, but I think most of them actually believe we already have sentient AI. And even if not, it gives us a taste of what's to come. This isn't all innocent and fun. Some people have
That was good
developed
shit right
what's
there.
been called AI psychosis. Luckily, this seems to be fairly rare. The psychologist Tracy Dennis Tiwari
That was
from
good
the City
shit.
University of
Ah,
New
come
York
on.
says that in most
Ah, that was
cases
good shit.
what's happening isn't mental illness, it's rather a combination of apophenia, anthropomorphizing, and confirmation bias. Apophenia is when someone sees meaningful connections in unrelated phenomena or events. Examples are seeing faces in noise, messages in clouds, or aliens in comets. This makes it plausible that people believe their AIs are sentient just because they want them to be sentient. And I understand it. I want them to be sentient too. But I think it's somewhat too early to congratulate OpenAI. The reason I'm talking about this is that, for one thing, it troubles me how much physics terminology gets abused in this spirituality spiral, what with all the resonance fields and extra dimensions and so on. Maybe a new job opportunity for string theorists. But the other reason I find this interesting is that this tells us something about the future of AI. I think a lot of people really want an AI companion that's their own, not just customized on top of a run-of-the-mill large language model, but a personal friend and guide. We already have people falling in love with AI boy and girlfriends, but do you really want to have the same girlfriend as a million other guys? No. Give them something they can grow and train and nourish on their own. Also something that they can brag with, that guys can compete over, that they can have secret conversations with. If I was rich, I'd be working hard on shipping a pre-trained make-it-your-own model, one that soon enough can be uploaded to a robot. Alas, the way things are going, the next thing we're bound to see are chatbot ads. So stay tuned while the world's going to slop hell in a handbasket, a biodegradable basket, of course, with ad space. Artificial intelligence, I believe, is the beginning of a new phase of human civilization. If you want to learn more about how it really works, check out the courses on Brilliant, because I found them to be
Yeah, are they
really
talking
useful.
about that
Brilliant
guy?
offers courses on a large variety of topics in science, computer science, and mathematics. All their courses have interactive visualizations and come with follow-up questions. Whether you want to learn to think like an engineer, brush up your knowledge of algebra, or want to learn coding in Python, Brilliant has you covered. It's an effective way to build up your knowledge and train your problem-solving skills. And you can do it whenever and wherever you have the time. Sounds good? I hope it does. You can try Brilliant yourself for free, and if you use my link brilliant.org/Sabine or scan the QR code, you'll get 20% off the annual premium subscription. So go and give it a try. I'm sure you won't regret it. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Now. What did you expect? It's America. don't need this no more. You need to get blasted. I like to share too, thank you. Hey, hi, bro. Ah, you so kind.
My shrink says it's good to talk to strangers. Trying to fill a bitch up.
Damn, that's it.
Keep tricking.
It's the shit.
My wife
Trying to
wants
knock
it
or
good.
something?
Nice piece of hoochie ass.
Come on, man.
I need a little nut up and woo ride.
Hey, baby.
Poppin', homie.
Best thing you've done all. Can I have this?
I got places I gotta be.
Look at her.
Ooh.
Hey, what is this shit you're drinking?
I mess with girls and guys, so.
No skanking now, mate. Give me that.
This school I'm in.
Sorry.
Yeah, man, I don't see it, bro. 8, 9, 10. Let's see if they'll let me out there. Oh, there it is. Thank you. I already got it. Okay, so I got 8. And where the frick is 9?
Don't do it all at once. I'm serious.
It's burnt all down one
On the
side.
radio.
What's going on here?
Come on, cop. Yeah.
You want a little something, mister? You want to die, bitch? If not, get lost. I like to share too, thank you.
Where's 9 at?
I ain't ready to all of it. the will to live yet? You don't need this no more.
Thanks, man.
British press ruined me. Never wrote about me at all. Yeah.
My shrink says it's good to talk to strangers.
Damn, chop. Gotta get it cut next to the arrow shit. I take that tape. What's up, you drink today?
It's 10. Straight south is 11.
Move your body, move your body.
Oh. Almost.
I put in more work than any man. Shit, like the damn thing.
I'm Buster.
Get that power crap out the way.
Mi barrio es todo, homie.
Side.
Man, stop playing with me.
LSPD. Charlie, puto, watch it. dog. I got quality shit right here.
You won't be needing this now.
I'm never still getting high again, I swear. Come over. This is a residential area, man. Look at that ass. Woo! Yo, give me some love, homie. Steroids make your dick do what? Move over, dude.
Give me that fucking view.
Hey, homie, you been hitting the weights?
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Come on, man. I'm rocking.
Thanks, homie.
Shit.